Welcome to Lagoon City's Parks and Waterways meeting for August 8th. Opening the meeting, we have a recording. Would you like to play that, please, Amber?
Being streamed live on the Township of Ramara YouTube channel. Be advised that by attending a public meeting of the Commission, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded and will form a part of the public record. The chair, CAO, or secretary have the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of live streaming in exceptional circumstances where the content of the debate is considered inappropriate to be published. Attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in unacceptable behavior or comments.
Thank you, Ashley. We'll start the meeting with the adoption of the agenda and or agenda additions. So the recommendations that Lagoon City Parks and Waterways Commission agenda dated August 8, 2024 and be adopted as presented. Commissioner Shoesmith on the floor, second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? All in favor? It's passed. Adoption of the minutes. The minutes of meeting on July 11th, 2024. Lagoon City Parks and Waterways Commission July 11th, 24 minutes. Recommendation that Lagoon City Parks and Waterways Commission dated July 11th, 24 be adopted as presented. On the floor, Councillor Bell, second by Commissioner Mason. All in favor? Oh, sorry, I didn't see it.
That's okay. It's just for 9.2, which currently reads excavation at the tennis court. It's PW 92.24. And the current says that the commission recommends council to direct staff to investigate and direct the cleanup of the tennis courts. So it wasn't the tennis courts, it was the excavation. So I sent Amber just a quick little amendment so that it said the commission requested rather than recommended, but requested for staff to investigate and direct the cleanup of the excavation located next to the tennis courts at 2 Poplar Crescent. Just to be more specific, because we can't direct those tennis courts because they're not ours. So
I think what the problem was too is fixed. When I went by, I noticed it was.
it's just, I want I just want it so that the minutes are captured correctly,
Okay.
what the actual motion was. That's all. So I sent the amendment to Amber earlier.
Nice. That good?
Yes, so then the minutes will be adopted as amended.
Right. Okay, perfect. All in favor? That's passed. Does anybody have any pecuniary interest? No, we're gonna change that word one of these days. Yeah, I know, I've never used it before. Is there any open forum regarding the agenda items? Nothing. Presentations and receivings of petitions and deputations. There's nothing there. Accounts and budgets. Accounts vouchers dated August 8, 2024. The recommendation is that the accounts and voucher dated August 8, 24 be received as information. Put on the floor, Commissioner Shoesmith, second by Commissioner Mason. Discussion. The only discussion I actually asked, oh, you have something. You can go first if you want.
My question was just around the expense toward the solicitor, because my understanding was that before I was on commission, that it was determined under the former CAO that any legal expenses were to the township and not the commission. So I don't know what this expense is, and I don't know if it's, I don't know.
Which expense is it? The legal?
The legal, yeah, for July 8th, 1,465.33. And so I don't know where we are with legal. And so my understanding was that it had been determined because the township is the owner of the properties and the bylaws and all those things, that it was the township who paid legal. So I just was looking for, and we had actually brought this, and former CAO Drinkwalter was going to be considering this question again about who was to pay for what on a number of different items. And then of course he's gone. So I'm not sure where that status is in the bigger picture, but specifically on this, my understanding was that legal was not paid for by the commission. So I just don't know where we are.
I thought legal had always been paid for by the commission.
So when you were, before I came on the commission, you indicated that you'd had a discussion about legal with former CAO Pinsent, and that it had been determined legal was the responsibility of the township. So I just want to get clarification on who is responsible for legal.
Okay,
I mean, I don't know that we can necessarily do that under this accounts voucher, but we could revisit that motion or that discussion that we,
why don't you bring it up in new business then, right, on that?
sure, we can do that.
Right. And you're talking the one that's blocked out, right? That's what you're talking about?
Sorry.
You're talking that invoice is blocked out?
I'm looking at the accounts voucher and it says, you are at 1,465.33.
Okay, that is the one. Okay,
So,
then.
yeah.
All right. I don't recall that actually, but okay, well, let's look into it and see, because I'm trying to recall ever seeing an invoice. All right. So you're gonna bring that up in new business?
Yeah, I can do.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's do that then. The only question I had, like, oh, that was one of them. I got that. Okay, the trees, what were they for?
They were at the south footbridge on the Turtle Island side. We had a few of the hedges in there that had died over the winter, so we had to replace some of them to refill that hedge in.
Oh, I see on the residence.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, that's what they were for, because I was trying to figure out what we needed trees for over there. All right. Anybody else have any other questions? All in favor? That's passed. Budget to actual reports, it's a recommendation that the budget to actual reports dated July 24th, July 2024 be received as information. Put it on the floor, Commissioner Mason, second by Councillor Bell. I just noticed Councillor or Deputy Mayor's up there. Okay. Sorry, welcome, Deputy Mayor. I didn't see you there. I'll look to see if your hand's up.
It's all good.
So any discussions here?
I guess I do, but I suppose they could come under the proposed as well, but the other LCPNW, I don't know or recall what that line item is. And there's an amount this year of, it's a small amount of just of 500 and whatever dollars, but I don't know what it is. And then sorry, and I think that the duckweed refers to the spraying of Duckwater Reward, the herbicide spraying. But I'm actually not sure if that's what that line item represents. So, I mean, it could be under budget to actual, maybe we should leave it to the budget discussion itself.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you're talking about.
So we can, yeah, maybe I'll just leave those line items and I'll ask them under the proposed unless.
The amount of under other LCPW that was spent, the 1,500, is that, or $1,005? That is for the costs for the flyers for the weed spraying.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, on that one. Yep. Thank you. And then I think the duckweed one is, we can leave that to under proposed because if it is the herbicide, then the line item should just be amended. That's all. So I can leave it under to when we get to proposed budget.
Commissioner Mason, do you have something? No? Any other discussion? All in favor? It's passed. The draft budget recommendation that the draft 2025 Lagoon City Parks and Waterways budget be received and that the treasurer attend the September meeting to discuss the proposed Lagoon City Parks and Waterway budget. Well, on the floor, Councillor Bell, second by Commissioner Mason. Discussion. What I would say too is get your questions together because it's going to be a long meeting. Well, it'll be longer than normal. And we'll be discussing it. And also I have requested to get it to us a bit earlier so we can look at it beforehand. Okay. And by doing it early, this way, we're able to get our contractors in early. We can get out the bids, we can get everything out, and our I guess Josh and the infrastructure can get out there and get good quotes for us.
Through your chair. So this is just a template provided to you so that we can get an idea of what capital projects you would like to receive quotes on or to get an idea for the next meeting. The next meeting, the treasurer will attend and then answer any questions you might have, but we would just like a bit of direction as to what you would like to try and budget for next year. If you have any ideas right now that we could start to look into, that would be appreciated.
So that's a good point, Amber. So you would like, I guess it's like wishes kind of now to get a rough idea what the commission's looking to do for next year. So if you have anything like, would we discuss it now or would we discuss it in new business? Now would be the time to discuss it.
Yes.
Okay. So, this could go on for a few minutes. Yeah.
I just was wondering if we could defer this down to the bottom of the agenda because we have all those items that we brought forward. And so from the boat tour day, and those things might have an associated cost. So I wonder if we can just take this down and do the two at the same time so that we have a chance to talk about all those, anything that might arise out of the boat tour as well as the wish list together instead, so that we do it all in one discussion.
Right. And if you don't think of anything now that you'd like, you can bring it up the next meeting too, but try to send that information as quick as you can to Amber so that she can pass it on to our treasurer and then they can roughly figure out the dollars to give us a rough budget, right?
Sorry, Cal, I just meant to defer it to the end of the meeting where
That's, I
the,
know.
yeah, okay,
I
got it.
know, because this is just the big preliminary. We're going to do this again. This is just to give them the information that we're going to be talking about, but we will probably be wanting to add some things. So we're going to want to get that out to them beforehand because you're going to leave this meeting and walk into Lagoon City and say, you know what, maybe we should look at this. Maybe we should look at that. Right. Okay. All right. So, I don't want to vote on this then, so I'll just leave it open till, can I do that and move on? And so we can leave with the people that are, had opened it and we haven't done all in favor. We'll do that later then, once we talk about it at the end of the meeting.
Right. Well, just to add this item to the end of the agenda after you've done your discussion.
Okay. So I'll move on to the next item then without asking all in favor. Which we're going to be there pretty quickly, right? The next one is items information, 8.1, infrastructure and public works update. Recommendation to receive the infrastructure and public works update as information. Somebody put on the floor, Commissioner Mason, second by Commissioner Shoesmith. Would this be?
Morning, everybody. So our infrastructure update this week, harvesting to date has been completed in Cedar Lagoon, Windward Lagoon, Beaver Lagoon, Canoe Lagoon, Concord Pond, Leeward Lagoon, Gondola Lagoon, both east and west. The entrance to Lagoon City and the crews this week are currently working in Harbor Lagoon and the Marina, Lagoon City Marina. With the high water levels this year, we've not yet been able to harvest in Turtle Lagoon or Pike Lagoon. We have had a recent drop in the water levels that we are almost able to get the equipment under the bridge. And we're going to attempt to do that on Monday. Hopefully we get we need about another inch to 2 inches of drop of water and we should be able to get the equipment under the bridge. So we're going to attempt that on Monday and see how we make out in Turtle Lagoon there. So as of August 1st, we've removed 79 barge loads of aquatic weeds from the waterways so far. Crews have been doing an amazing job this year. We've got lots of positive feedback from the public. And again, the complaint load is way down from years past. So shed repairs to the clean flow shed on Laguna Parkway have been awarded to the contractor, and we are just awaiting a start date from the contractor. The township has received the LSRCA permit and are awaiting a start date from the contractor for the North Footbridge. We've issued a start work order as of August 6th, and we'll advise the public and staff when the bridge work begins. The north and south beaches, the beach revitalization work has been completed at both of those beaches. Weeds Begone has been in and have applied another round of treatments to the clean flow system throughout the canals. They will be back. I think it's proposed in approximately a week to do their last little bit of treatments, and they're primarily going to be focused there in Gondola Lagoon. Staff are still waiting the required materials to arrive to complete the electrical upgrades to the 2 power supply buildings for the water movers in Gondola Lagoon. And as we get more information and the products arrive, we'll update accordingly at the time. The debris from the South Beach kiosk area has all been cleaned up and removed. The snow fence and posts are still there, but they are the property of the Lagoon City Parks and Waterways, so they are for that beach there, so they're stored off to the side safely out of the way where anybody potentially would be. The broken tree at the north beach has been cut off and removed and cleaned up, as well as some of the other branches that were in the area that had come down during that most recent storm. And the fencing that was falling down around that tree has been re-uprighted and secured in place. And as discussed earlier, the hydro excavation near the tennis courts close to Pier 1 has been completed and cleaned up there. So, all right.
Amazing job. Thank you. Any questions? We'll start with Commissioner.
Yeah, you see
Mike, turn your microphone.
Yeah, sorry. You say the rehab is complete. Where did they get the scope of work from? Did it come from the municipality? I'm just wondering where that
Yes, the
border. came from.
township with the LSRCA created the scope of work and determined the areas that were to be remediated.
Okay, have you visited the area since?
I haven't had a chance yet,
Okay,
but it's on my list to get out. So every other beach that they've done, it's been exactly what has been specified. So
okay, because I saw the work being done. They had a small skid steer front end loader and a very short reach backhoe. And they didn't really uproot any of the growth there. And it's actually resprouted in almost right away. So I would assume that'll be back in place probably within a year or two.
So with the expansions, the contractor that maintains the beaches is supposed to be looking after those areas now. As per the permit, we could only go down a foot. We couldn't go down any further than a foot. So
But they just skimmed the top of the water.
we can't work in the water at all.
No, but I mean, the weed or the growth that was there will reappear. And in fact, the groomer was there this morning and he didn't even go over the area that they did the work on. So that's going to reroot, or if the roots are still there, and it'll regrow in a very short period of time. So it was like a fruitless exercise.
So we'll have a look at it, but the permit was very specific on what we could and couldn't do.
Okay, when I spoke to you, you said the permit extended far beyond where they actually ended right now. In fact, it probably went on another 200 feet from where it actually exists right now. So I'm just wondering why the disparity between what was planned and what actually came to fruition.
As far as I know, what was planned was what was done. We worked right off of the permit. They had the permit. They could see where the limits and everything were.
And it specified the boundary that they were going to go to?
Yes, so in between the sections, it was both either ends that we worked at, essentially on both beaches. It was 200 feet across the entire beach,
200 feet?
I believe, yeah.
They did about 30.
Within the one section, yes. So we're not remediating the center of the beaches where there is no issues.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
So the permit was for the full width of the beach,
Right,
extending a little bit into each side.
right.
So we're not going to remediate in the center of the beach where there's no issues. We're just going to do either side.
Right, and
And
that's
that's
where
what was
sort of
completed.
the lack of work exists.
Well,
They were
have a
done
look at
in
it.
like half a day. They were done by 2 o'clock in the afternoon on the day of the work. It was very quick.
Yeah.
And very incomplete.
So we'll inspect it and we'll go from there.
Sure.
One of the things, just to follow up on that, I think, like, who's doing the beach? Who does that now? Who's doing the beach? Well, okay, but that contractor, we had an issue before that he wasn't going all the way over, and that's kind of what happened with the overgrowing of our beaches. So if we've cleaned that up, we have to make sure that he's gone all the way over that, so that it isn't sprouting up anymore, right?
Yeah, we can discuss it with the contractor that looks after the beach maintenance to ensure he is going the full width of the beach.
Perfect, yeah, because that was what I think happened before. He wasn't going all the way over, and he gradually went less and less, and it just gradually came over. Yeah. It is
contributes
part
to
of
the
the
growth.
problem, so yeah. if
It's
you wouldn't mind,
resprouting
Doc,
already.
looking into that, yeah.
Almost immediately within a couple of days, fresh bright green sprouts were reappearing.
Yeah, okay. Did you have anything else? Okay, Councillor Bell.
Thank you. My question is around the beach cleanup. First of all, I want to say it looks amazing though. Like when you're out on the water now and you look in at the beaches, they're very broad and expansive and they look great. So kudos for that. My question actually on the north was just, on the public beach, we were allowed to grade it. And on the north, there was no grading. And I know that's at the center. So you're saying you were concentrating on that. But I just wonder whether we would be allowed to grade it because it is kind of, it's not the same drop that you found on public where it was maybe over a foot, but there is probably, I don't know, 6 inches or 8 inches or something like that, where it's not a nice graded entrance. So that would be the only thing I was questioning, whether we were allowed to do that part, and I didn't know.
Yeah, we'll investigate that. It should have been somewhat graded.
Okay.
But
Okay.
yeah.
That was my first question. And then my second question, I did receive a request from a resident to just follow up on the footbridge lighting. And I know at the last meeting you were looking, working with a contractor. So I just don't know where we are.
Yeah, so it's all been sent off to the contractor. They're investigating types of lighting that could go on there, that would fit the purpose of the light, and as well as the bridge. So we're still waiting on the contractor on that one.
So we'll get a report on that hopefully next meeting then, right?
Do you want a report or you just want to proceed?
I don't think we need a report. I guess we can proceed with if you're getting, you know.
Yeah, if it's a substantial amount to do it, I'll bring a report forward, but if it's not, we'll
Okay,
proceed.
perfect. Yeah, it's a good judge. Does anybody else have any questions? The only question I had was, this is the longest we haven't been into Turtle Lagoon. And I haven't had any complaints or I haven't anybody say anything to me about that. Is that because of the high water?
So the weed load in Turtle Lagoon is pretty heavy. I was in there myself with the pontoon boat on a tour to try and get some measurements, figure out when we were in there. But it is navigational. The weeds are probably 18 to 24 inches below the surface through the middle of the portions of the canal. So it's navigational to get in and out of there for the people that are in there. As we get in closer to the shore wall, like approaching 15 feet or stuff, the weeds are right up to the top. Absolutely. But we've had a couple of residents just stop us and request or try and find some information. So we've been doing education as well out there, letting them know that we're monitoring and every chance we can. And as soon as we can get in there, that we will. And they've been extremely happy with that. So.
Right, because this is some of the highest water we've had on Lake Simcoe. Like I know I've been there for all these years, and normally we can get the smaller barge in there or the smaller harvester in there in about the third week of July, second week, third week of July. We usually get in there.
Yeah,
So
we
this-
were actually starting to look into booking a crane possibly. We were going to be discussing it today if the water didn't go down. We were going to bring it up. If the water hadn't started going down to get the equipment in there, would be what we had to do years ago before I was on the commission, was bring in a crane, put the crane across. So we were looking at different contingency plans. Essentially the barge and the small harvester, or possibly the large harvester, we'd move over. We'd offload onto the shore because we wouldn't be able to pass. And in my opinion, there's no point having the crane there all day, every day to move the boat back and forth. So we would have offloaded the harvested weeds onto the shore wall and then moved the weeds from there into a bin. Hopefully we don't have to get to that point. If we do, we kind of have a plan in place already. And even booking a crane wouldn't be a long delay. We could probably get a crane within a couple days if we needed to do that. So. But yeah, it's one of the later years that we've been in there. It's typically the third week.
Well, I figured what we would do is just get a bin, put it in that side of the bridge, take the small conveyor, put that in, put the small harvester in there, and then you can just put it right on. And high water, usually we couldn't use that when it got to low water, but high water would always work pretty good, right?
Yeah, so the issue we tried with the small conveyor in the past, we had to have the conveyor in the water on a float system. Remember trying that a few times at Turtle a couple of years back?
Well, that happened when the water got too low. When the water was high, we could get the conveyor down in there, right?
Well, the conveyor would have to sit because the bottom of the conveyor has to be stabilized on a solid platform. So we'd have to put the conveyor on the shore wall. And depending on the water height, if the water is high enough, yeah, it would work as long as the equipment can reach up to the conveyor system.
So then what we would add then is trailer it out and take it over to the other.
Well, I was just gonna bring the bin
You
right
dump
up
it right
alongside the road there and then basically put the machine So the harvesters would dump onto the shore wall, the backhoe would be on site, take it from
Okay.
the shore wall onto, right into the bin.
Would have been an interesting process. Okay, that's
Yeah.
good that we didn't have to do that, but it's something to keep in mind, right? This is the first time I think it's been this late. Yeah. And once, once you reach that point, the barge will go under, because the barge, I think, can get under before the small conveyor.
So the barge was designed for those bridges, but Lake Simcoe up until last week was still above its full mark from spring.
Wow.
So typically we're almost at the lowest point of the year in the lakes right now, and we're just below the full mark essentially.
Councilor Will.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I missed one item. I learned on the weekend that the sign at the entrance to the South Beach that says no smoking, no dogs, that kind of thing, it's gone. And I don't know when it went missing. But I went to the beach, not as a member of the commission, just as a person. But the security, of course, they recognized me. And they were having, I guess, quite a bit of trouble with the dogs and that sort of thing. So if we can, I don't know if someone's taken it.
Yeah, we have signage at the yard. We can get new it.
Okay, thank you.
So you're saying they had some problems with dogs on the beach?
So yeah, evidently they had quite a few issues with people were bringing dogs on the beach, and also because you're not supposed to be smoking there. And I guess they had there was some kind of heated discussions, let's say, from their perspective, and they were having a really hard time just policing it. And people kept saying to them, well, there's no signs, so how do I know it's a rule, and that sort of thing. So, and I don't know when it went missing. That's the first time it was brought to my attention.
So when those I guess security has issues, right? Do they tell like somebody, or do they report back to Amber, or like what happens with that?
I have not received any communication with respect to anything like that.
Maybe we should, maybe I should bring up the new business. Yeah, maybe we should talk to them that these issues happen, that it's just not somebody hearing that walking by like yourself or somebody else. If there's issues there, we should know about it, right?
Yeah, and Cal, I think I remember we did actually request of the security company that they provided updates, and I think that was last year, might have even been the year before. So that's maybe us too being a bit remiss and not kind of revisiting it, because we've been talking about process and procedure, but maybe we just didn't kind of mention that again. So yeah, maybe
Let's
we
just
should.
make a note of that,
Yeah.
because I do think it should be reported so that Amber has an idea what's going on down there, right, with the security, right?
Yeah, and I would
Yeah.
say I
So-
did say to them to please make sure that like, don't tell me as just an individual person on the beach, like on the weekend. I asked them to go through the appropriate channels,
Yeah,
but
so maybe Amber, we could follow up on that, or
Perhaps we add that as to part of the resolution that staff or that the staff communicate with the security guard monthly throughout the summer or something.
well,
like
what
that.
I'd like to do is before we have our meetings, so that you could report if there's any problems, right?
Sure.
Yeah, I think that would be better to do it that way. And I think really it's only for what, the 3 months of the year, 4 months of the year, right? Yeah. And normally the only busy time will be July and August. So that, we had talked about that before too.
yeah, we had talked about it. And but then, we've improved our processes so much over the last 2 years, and I'm not sure when we had the discussion, whether we carried it as any
Yeah,
kind
we're
of
gonna talk
direction.
about
So,
process at the end.
yeah.
Okay, all right. That's all the questions I've got. Anybody else? Oh, yeah, sorry, you had your hand
Yeah.
up.
Sorry, through the chair. I just want to confirm that the sign was there as of the 23rd of July, because I had gone in and installed some additional no parking signs. So that sign actually was there, was captured in my picture. So it hasn't been missing all that long. So we'll get it updated. So
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, sir? Okay, all in favor? Oh, sorry, before we say all in favor,
Through
Amber?
your chair. So the motion is that we receive the infrastructure and public works update as information. And with permission to amend it, that staff to proceed as directed with the footbridge lighting, and that staff communicate throughout the summer months on a monthly basis with respect to, sorry, staff communicate with security throughout the summer months on a monthly basis with respect to any beach concerns.
Okay, but I'd like to make sure it goes to our procedure too, and maybe later in the meeting that it goes that we automatically do that, so we don't have to request it every year, right?
Okay.
You see what I mean? So that we don't have to worry about this anymore, that it just comes in. So maybe the procedural, we'll put it at the end, because we're gonna talk about that at the end.
Sure. And so then we'll just have the second part is the amendment that staff proceed as directed with footbridge lighting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So that was moved by Counselor Mason and seconded by Counselor Shoesmith.
Are you guys all right with that? Okay. Okay. So do you need it read again, or everybody know what we're voting on now? Everybody good? All in favor? That's us. Okay, I gotta just remember that at the end to talk about that. What's the next one we got here? The beach booking and wristbands. I got a lot to read here, right? The recommendation is that report LCO 724 be received as information that staff advised Pier 1 Resort to cease running programs on township property until the beach booking permit has been obtained, and that the chair and the staff meet with Pier 1 to discuss the beach booking policy and wristband policy, and the staff report the communications, any recommendations from the resort at a future meeting, and that safe state protection security be directed to enforce the beach booking policy. So we put on the floor, Commissioner Shoesmith, second by Commissioner Mason. Discussion.
The only discussion I have is that the recommendation reads that chair and staff meet with Pier 1. So I'm the ward counselor for Ward 5. And so I would want to be at any meeting that is happening with any community groups, not specifically this meeting, but any meetings that are being held with any of our community groups, so that I can ensure I am apprised of what's happening within my ward. So I would just want to amend it that the chair, staff and council member for Ward 5.
So you're amending it that you're at that meeting? Is what you want?
I'm great for you to be there too. I think it should be the chair, but I just think any meetings that are happening in that are impactful on Ward 5 and the residents of Ward 5 should be including the Ward 5 counselor here or anywhere for that matter, but that's a different story. But specifically here, yeah, I would want to be involved, and I'm quite confident the inn would also want me to be there.
And how does staff like?
That's sorry, through your chair. That's fine. We can make that amendment if the mover and seconder would like to make that amendment to the motion.
Okay. All right, so we'll add. So any other discussion on this? Well, something. Yeah, yeah, I think it's all yeah. So okay, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good with all this. So can you just read that then? You just added, I think, Counselor Bell.
Yes, I did. That the chair, council representative and staff meet with Pier 1 Resort to discuss the beach booking policy and wristband policy.
Well, there's two council representatives, sorry. So I would just say council, yeah, Ward 5 counselor.
Yep.
Oh, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I would have to disagree with that. I don't think that council members should be present at operational meetings. I think this is more operational. I think that having you there, Cal, and our staff is fine.
Okay, so we'll vote then. So I guess, could you want to read that motion again, please?
So the motion is that report LC 0724 be received for information, and that staff advise Pier 1 Resort to cease running programs on township property until a beach booking permit has been obtained, and that the chair, Ward 5 counselor and staff meet with Pier 1 Resort to discuss the beach booking policy and wristband policy, and that staff report the communications and any recommendations from the resort at a future meeting, and that safe state protection and security be directed to enforce the beach booking policy.
I agree, but I disagree with the deputy mayor because one of the things I look at is the fact that this isn't operational. It's not like the counselor sitting there when she's dealing with our Josh and our infrastructure are talking to residents over the removing of the weeds and so on and so forth. This is something that we've been working on for a long time with and I've been involved in it for probably years and years, and I believe the counselor Bell has been involved in it. So to sit in this meeting, I don't see a problem with it myself personally, but I could see with the deputy mayor saying that he doesn't want counselors involved in day-to-day things, telling Josh in infrastructure how to plow or whatever, or sit in when there's a problem, unless it's like a resident. Sometimes that you're in your ward, if there's a major issue, sometimes they like to have their counselor with them and they make that decision. But this is kind of different. So anyways, that's my opinion on this. So, and coming to that, we'll just vote then, right? Yeah. So all in favor? That's passed. You're all right with that? Do you want all against or all opposed?
Yeah, no, I'll oppose it, but no, that's fine. I'll go with what the majority voted.
Okay. So the next thing we have is open Lagoon City Parks and Waterways tickets, mid-season review, deputy clerk and contact administrator. So recommendation we receive a verbal report with respect to the open Lagoon City Parks and Waterways tickets for information. So we put on the floor, Councillor Bell, second by Commissioner Mason. Would you like to go first, Deputy Clerk?
Through your chair, we only have 3 currently open tickets. One of them is in progress. What were the other 2 doing? Sorry, just one second.
We must have none, so we're doing good.
We need that Jeopardy music,
Yeah, somebody knows it. Somebody watches Jeopardy. A youngster. I know, I heard it back there. My grandparents used to watch that all the time. Well, who's the host now? The other fellow passed away, right?
Isn't it the Ken Jenny? It's in the, no, Mayim, Mary, what's her name? From,
I thought he got,
what's her, from, what is A Big Bang Theory? I couldn't get it in my head.
So yeah, there's only 3 open tickets. One's in regards to canal maintenance, which we're looking into. The other 2 aren't really commission related. One is swales, drainage and swales, and the other is the Paradise Bridge, which has been remediated. So that one I just haven't closed yet.
yeah, that's not commissioned, either one of us.
No.
Perfect then. Did you have a question on that?
I just wanted to, just a comment, because I always send you guys the kudos for canal maintenance. So on these tickets specifically, I know some of the ones that have opened and closed already. And I just wanted to say thank you because the turnaround time was really quick and I haven't had a chance yet to send you the 2 thank you messages that I received from residents because they saw you go down actually and physically take a peek and then they saw an improvement. So I always like to forward those to you and I haven't done it yet. So I like to also say thank you so that people are aware that you are out there and physically checking things out. So that's great. So thank you.
What's excellent. There's only 1 ticket open. That's really good. Yeah. It's good work. Um. Okay, so that was, did you have and let me see, the contract administrator, so no? That would have been, okay, so are we finished with that? Okay, we'll go to the next one is, all in favor? That's passed. Next one is the Waterside Wisdom, a verbal update, recommendations that we receive a verbal update from staff with respect to water wisdom, presentations for information. Put on the floor, Commissioner Shoesmith, second by Deputy Mayor.
Through your chair, I'm just, first, I misunderstood when Waterside Wisdom presentations were to be held. I, for some reason, had it in my mind that they were to be held in the fall. So, but requests for presentations have been sent out and we are receiving some correspondence right now, so we should have presentations starting in September.
Any discussion? I guess the only thing I'd like to do is, so what we'll do then is be starting in May, right? May or June, we'll start it in June. Like, when would be the best time to start this? Like for next year, when would we start?
Yeah, I think, but I don't know, is that new business? Should we talk about, just because this was just to get the updates, so should we have that discussion as a new business? I don't know.
If you can, we'll put new business, yeah, all right. All in favor?
Oh, sorry, I did have just one question though on the update itself, because in the interim, since we sent you the list, the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority has prepared a nice presentation about blue-green algae. So I didn't know if we could maybe just add that to the list. I know I popped you a quick email just to say I'll bring this at the next meeting, but now, so I'm just bringing it to add that to the request list. And if it doesn't come in right away, it really be any time, but I just think it's a really good one for people to understand what blue-green algae is and that kind of thing.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor? It's passed. Aquatic testing, verbal update, Director of Infrastructure, recommendation, we receive a verbal update from staff with respect to the aquatic testing for information.
Through the chair. So I unfortunately missed the last meeting, so I missed the discussion on the aquatic testing. We don't have anything planned for this year. The last time we did it, I believe, was the last term of the commission. It was the chair, myself, and Commissioner Points that kind of looked after it. We had Wessex investigate the weeds that were in the canals, and there was the determination that it was no different from the previous investigations. So everything still, as of right now, is classified as a class 2 non-hazardous weed under the NASM regimen. If the commission wishes, we can budget for 2025 to investigate the weed classifications again. I believe it was around $5,000 last time we did it to do all the testing and determine what the outcome was. But again, that outcome didn't change from the first time to the last time that we did classifications on the weeds.
Any discussion? I guess what bothers me, I guess, again, and you probably say this again and again when I talk about everybody else and what they're doing with their weeds, right? And that's, I guess, what kind of bothers me, because the amount of money that we're spending, and when you see it happening, and it's only myself seeing it. I don't have anybody else calling or telling me this, but when I go and I see Aurelia, what they've done with it, when I see what the Toronto Islands just dumps it right on the shore, right on Lake Ontario. And I know a lot of the people that do it, they just dump it wherever. And I guess I don't know. It just bothers me the amount of money that we're spending. And I understand, Josh, where you stand and all. Like your hands are tied. That we've done the testing and apparently it doesn't meet the requirements for anything really. Like other than I don't know even where it goes, what they do with it. They must recycle it or do something with it, right?
Yeah. So before we did talk with Aurelia on their practices and what they're doing, Aurelia has their own dump. So with it being a class 2 non-hazardous weed, it's used as an organic, as a fertilizer, essentially within the landfills. So Aurelia does stockpile it in a sense on their property dry it out. Once it's dried out, it gets transferred to the landfill and is used as an organic to help within the dump system there. I don't know what Toronto does. I haven't been involved with Toronto at all. But with it being that class 2 non-hazardous weed, it can go in your green bin. So anybody that is doing their own weeds, I know we've made the recommendation in the past, if it's small amounts, it can go in your green bin and Simcoe County will take it. Where we were taking it before was Simcoe County, and exactly where your green bin goes is where all these weeds were going. It was all blended in and mixed together, and then they turn around and sell it as organic compost, essentially, different times of the year. So
I guess my question is, it really, it drains it then right in their parking lots, right? So I was always in the impression you weren't allowed to drain it. You had to almost stop the water from going back into the lagoons after you take it out. Because I know I'd always question is, why couldn't we just let it sit over in the yard and just on a concrete
yeah.
and
Yeah,
then
so
take it when it dried out?
I think the big difference is the quantity that we have. Under a category 2 NASM, you can't stockpile it. Basically, it has to be contained. It has to go to disposal right away. Aurelia might have different practices than what we have, but we're following what the ministry's told us are the specifications of the material. We've been following what we've been told.
Okay, I won't keep asking all these questions. It's gonna be my last time, this last kick at the can, but I guess my final one is that, so we could take some of the weeds that you're harvesting and you could dump it on our lawns and we could use it for mulching?
A lot of people do. A lot of people that do harvest in front of their shore wall, because we only go up to 6 feet within a shore wall or 6 feet within a boat. People that choose to harvest right in front of their shore wall, a lot of them, we used to pick it up and process it with ours, but since it's transferred to infrastructure looking after all the canal maintenance, we no longer pick up piles on the shore wall. So a lot of people have either put it in with their gardens as mulch, fertilizer, or some are putting it in the green bins, which is permitted as well.
So if you had your machine then and somebody wanted that as mulch, you could put it right up on their shore wall, right?
We
up on.
can't, no, they can.
You can't do that?
No,
No.
again, it comes to the quantity. So we're not going to dump off just a little bit here, a little bit there. We can dump off a whole barge load, which I don't think anybody will want.
No, I was just thinking though, the harvester, the small one, like I would take half of that. Yeah. As long as they put it on my lawn.
Yeah, but the issue we get into, it's lost productivity time now if we're starting to do that. So
because all I know is and I'm talking this personally again, I put about $500 worth of cedar mulch around my trees last year.
Yeah.
And then when I came back in the spring, it's all gone and blown away. Oh, and in the I guess the lagoon, there was no sign of it anywhere. I could see the black liner. And then I've been experimenting pulling out some of the weeds around my pump and putting them in. It worked. They work really good as mulch.
The county loved it.
Oh.
The compost the county was getting with this material, they loved it. It broke down good. It was full of nitrogens. It had lots of characteristics in it that were great for compost, for fertilizers. But because of all those components in it, it's what makes it that category 2 non-hazardous weed.
But they still took it and used it. It was the volume. I thought that they wouldn't take it anymore.
Well, what ended up happening, so where it was being hauled to, or Old Berry Road, they redid that facility. And when they redid the facility there, Simcoe County, it was no longer large enough to accept the quantity of weeds that we had.
Right.
So we then looked at going, I think we went up to Cold Water, I believe it was, and then our last one was Collingwood. But it was starting to get even more costly at that point, hauling it that far. And then that's when we determined we found local places that could take it.
So if we say for Simcoe County, then if we came back and said, okay, we're not going to give you the volume, we'll only give you 25%, would they take that?
They would, but then we'd just have to set up different contracts with the people that take it now. And even the hauling contract would change a little bit. It's something we could investigate.
Yeah, maybe we should take a look
Yeah.
at the savings, and if they're gonna take 25%, we give them 25%, then we only have to ship the other 75%, I guess, over the barrier
Yeah.
wherever it's going.
Yeah, I don't know where the county would have it directed
Yeah,
directed to at this point, but we can invest.
maybe if you wouldn't mind to look into that, just to see if we could get rid of 25% for free then, really, other than hauling, right?
Yeah, it'd just
Yeah.
be the haulage down there, yeah.
Councilor Bell?
Yeah, thank you. The other thing is, we did have a local operator of a farm come to us last year, and he's quite close to Lagoon City, and he wanted to take the plants. And then kind of the discussion was that, he himself had to go through the process, which I understand very well and good. But I guess my question is, you know, couldn't staff assist, right? So that if you're being paid through Parks and Waterways anyway, is it possible that Parks and Waterways could motion that, that staff could assist these people, just like you would do in a corporate environment? If you had like a grant application, you would help your clients to be able to fill those applications out so they could be successful in achieving it. And I just wonder if we do have people approaching us, especially that close and locally, and I don't mean fill out the application for them, but I mean just at least have the phone call or an initial meeting with them to help them understand what that process looks like. Because they don't know. So when it was brought to me, it was brought by someone who just had no clue what he would. And then the minute he hears words like conservation or Wessex or words like that, deep-seated fear, and then walk away and never want to talk about it again. So I just wonder if we could have a process that said, you know, there's at least an engagement when somebody comes to us, just so that we can help maybe remove that fear, because if they were willing to take them for free, that would be super good, right? So.
Yeah, anybody that has been interested that has approached me, we've explained everything to them. And it's once you have that contract in front of them, they typically turn around and walk away, because there is a lot of limitations and requirements for accepting this material, which essentially gets costly, and it scares a lot of people away from it. So
I think it's that one where they can't hold it till the time they want to do it. They have to,
you can't stockpile it. As
Yeah.
soon as you get it, it's got to be spread at a certain
that killed it every time, yeah.
a certain ton per hectare. So there is a lot of requirements with it, unfortunately, and that's our issue. So
Yeah, thank you. I knew that was basically the answer, but I like to, again, always have it in
Okay,
public.
Josh, I won't ask about this anymore now. Okay, I'll stop complaining.
it's kind of good every 2 years, maybe,
Oh, maybe just to regurgitate.
because then everybody new
Maybe-
gets to hear it again. So
Yeah, I'll go see if I can find weeds being, held somewhere else now. Go down the States, I guess. But thank you for the report. It really helps, I think, to talk to you guys like this. All in favor? Oh, did you want to? Oh, sorry, I'm not looking up there at all, Deputy Mayor. You're gonna have to yell at me.
Hey, it's all good, Cal. I was just going to reiterate what Josh did anyway, so that it's all good.
It's what's it?
I was just going to speak to what Josh already spoke to, so he's already covered it. I'm good.
Okay. All in favor? That's passed. We're into unfinished and new business. 9.1 guidelines for in-water works for production application. Councillor Bell, recommendation that in-water works be permitted with consulting of infrastructure department. Sorry, I'm just trying to read all this here. Put on the floor. Commissioner Mason, second by Commissioner Shoesmith. Discussion here.
Thank you. So the reason I brought this is there's a number, and I did reach out to Josh ahead of time, so I'm not surprising him and giving him no notice. So one of the things that happened is there's a company who's advertising to do weed or aquatic plant removal at shore walls. And that was this year. There was some social media sharing of information about herbicides that are for use in the United States that are not approved for use in Canada, or at least in Ontario. To my knowledge, it's still Dyewater Reward that is permitted. And then there was a third last year where some residents were adding their own bioaugmentation. And I don't know whether that would be playing nicely with what Weeds Be Gone is doing, or what even they were adding. We'd have no way of knowing. So the reason I brought the discussion, and I sent Amber some motions, but it's hard to send a motion when we haven't had the discussion yet to know what the flavor of committee is, and as well as what are the rules and what can infrastructure bring to the conversation. So I created some motions just around definitely, I think there's education required. But I know, for example, with something like a no dumping bylaw, conservation appreciates when the local municipality brings in their own bylaws to support them. So I guess my question, or where to start the discussion maybe, is with infrastructure, and just find out, because we have this weird thing where the floors of the lagoons are township actual property, meaning a person can't go pull up or do anything to the floors without, I assume, having the same insurance they would have to work on any municipally held lands. So I guess there's a couple of things, and it is definitely, there's an environmental piece and perspective, and we have a responsibility to make sure that we're not just dumping chemicals or who knows what into the waterways. So I don't know whether it's a new bylaw, an amendment to the bylaw that we have for no dumping of organics and feces and whatever else, or if it is simply just an education piece with some kind of a procedure, so that if somebody wanted to do something, they would have to go through infrastructure. So I think the first thing is just kind of ask infrastructure's perspective before we go any further.
Well, just before that, what I'd like to say though is the dumping of things in, right? I haven't seen any of that. Like that's
one of our bylaws, like the no, you can't.
Yeah, but I don't, you say there's people doing it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I've never heard or seen that, but the thing, the part I think about that ad that you were talking about, right? And you and I talked about that before. When I read the email that Josh did, I loved it. I think it was great the way he handled it, right? Like he went through all the points and told them what they could do, right? And we can't really stop people from cleaning their weeds out 6 feet out. But if there's a company that wants to do it, I don't know how many people are going to pay for that in Lagoon City, right? Right. I don't see a big issue with it. But so what you're saying is that we should have a bylaw for that, or?
I'm not talking about just that guy with just those weeds. I'm talking about the overall
Oh, the
picture.
overall
Yeah,
picture.
like this thing isn't just about that guy or that product.
Okay, because that seemed to be what started this. Okay.
Well, no, there was 3. So it started last year, because I did present the question last year about this person these 2 properties who were using their own method of bioaugmentation. And I didn't know the product or what it was, but beyond that, it's not for me.
Did they use a product?
Yeah, they were using.
And how well did it work? Like
I mean, I don't know, because all I did was pose a question at the time, which was, how does this work? Because again, we do have a different situation with the lagoons. And again, we do have the environmental responsibility. So that's kind of why I was just get the discussion on the floor and hear what infrastructure or legislative for that matter. Yeah.
Through the chair, from an infrastructure standpoint, with the harvesting within the 6 feet, we don't have any concerns. The one contractor that has reached out, I believe he is advertising through the LCCA. We don't have concerns with it. The requirements that we have been set out to them. There is some insurance requirements similar to what's on the road. It's not a road. It's not like the rules are kind of the same, but they're quite a bit different too. There's a lot different hazards, waterways versus roads, etc. We also discussed with him if he were to hit any bubbler lines, anything like that, he's 100% liable for it. We need to know, we'll need to fix it, and then we'll invoice it back. Where was I going with this? Sorry. As far as herbicides being used within the water, there is very limited approved products. They are not administered by the township. It's administered by the MNRF. They could also go to the MNR if somebody is doing it. MNR might be required to be notified, as well as the Conservation Authority. I don't know if we can create a bylaw that would be specific to us. I don't know if we'd want to take that on. It's probably better off under the province's scope of work. I know even to become a licensed exterminator, I just went through it for the township from a roadside perspective. It's onerous. There is a lot of testing and a lot of requirements within it. When you get into in waterworks, it's even more rigorous. So The township doesn't have anything currently, and my recommendation would be not to, keep it through the province. And if people do notice somebody putting in herbicides, maybe let conservation or MNR or MNRF know. The third one with treatments, I don't think we've noticed any impacts from people using it, detrimental to what we're putting in. I haven't heard anything from the contractor that does it. We haven't noticed anything in the waters. We could come up with a bylaw, but again, it may be very difficult to police of approved biological additives to put in the water. It's a hard one. Like, you'd have to see it going in, you'd have to see the product going in. It's not something you can really go after the fact on. You have to see it as it's being done. So would you go through an application process to do it? But then again, it's putting the onus on the township or the commission or however you want to look at it to, number one, approve it, number two, oversee it, and number three, monitor it. I know infrastructure, we don't have staffing, and I'm pretty sure bylaw doesn't have staffing for that. It could be a full-time job, really, somebody just in Lagoon City watching the canals to make sure everybody's abiding by it. So like, it's a great idea. I don't know big picture how easily we could put something in place for it. And it'd be hard to police. So
Go ahead, Councilor Bell.
Thank you. So that's why I brought the discussion, because part of what I think we need to make a motion for is some education, and then so that there's some posting on the website, for example, that says, if you're a contractor who wants to work in Lagoon City's waterways, contact infrastructure. So just some small pieces, right, that communicate that. And then part of that would also be any contractors who are working in the lagoons being identifiable. So whether we have banner vests that say LCPWC on them, or whatever is required, so that if there's somebody out in the canals dumping something in, so for example, when Weeds Be Gone is there, people don't know their Weeds Be Gone. And this year, as you know, there was somebody who didn't understand about the contractor who was applying the herbicide. And so there was a big question around, are they wearing their PPE? What are they doing? Do they have, and they didn't know who the people were. So I think there's sometimes a fear from the environmental perspective when people see folks just out there working and they don't know who they are, they can't identify them. So I think that there's just a couple of things, around education and around identification of whether it's employees or a service provider. So I think it would just be as simple as having the vest with the LCPWC on the actual vest. And I understand there could be a budget cost associated to that, but that way there would not be any confusion. And then if somebody does see a person go and dump a bucket of whatever in the water, and they're not indicated as a contractor or an employee, they would know then that that's when you might want to call one of the other authorities. And I'm not saying this because I don't have any reason for it. I have had concerns brought to me by different people over the last few years. So starting with that bioaugmentation that people were adding last year, and then continuing, because when they're not identifiable, they don't quite understand what's happening in the waterway. So I think that, so I guess my motion would be that we create a process of education and communication, some updates to the website, and then to move under budget, some kind of vest that identify employees as or contractors as LCPWC.
Cal, can I speak?
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment. I think new business is often to talk about things that we want to see on the agenda for the next meeting. I really feel quite unprepared. I really didn't know what this discussion was about. It's very broad. I would recommend we put this on the next meeting's agenda and defer this, because I don't want to vote on anything we haven't had time to have staff explore and give us their feedback before we start bringing in extra work and all these other things. I would really like to have a discussion, but I'd like to see a staff report on this before we start voting.
Okay. Josh, you'd sort of answered some of those questions right off the bat when you were talking, right? That basically it's environmental, Canadian, I guess the province or the federal government is going to look after something like that. We're not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole, really. So that's kind of looked after. Also, in discussion too, I think with the contracting, right? When we contract people out, isn't there a code of conduct for our contractors already in place, right? That when they're here, like in Ramara, that they have to follow, correct?
There is, but it's not broad, like it's more geared for roadside, so you have to have proper PPE and everything on.
Right.
To start handing out vests or anything like that, my only concern with Waterways, that vest may impede the use of the personal flotation devices.
Well,
They might
no, I
have-
prefer not to put out the vest. I think a
Yeah.
contractor should show he's a contractor so we know. So if somebody's going to ask, it should be weeds be gone on their boat, which I thought was on their boat. Actually, it said weeds be gone on their boat. That thing that they travel
On their
around.
pontoon boat, I think it does
Yeah,
say it.
so that they're identified who they are. I don't want anybody to think for a minute that they're part of our staff, right? Like at all, that they
Yeah.
are contractors,
Yeah.
right? So that we're not dealing with it, but it's all there sort of. I think what Sherry's now asking is for the education. So and I think really that should be talked about like at a later time. We should give everybody the opportunity to look into it. But really all the rest of this stuff, it sounds like you don't really want to touch it with it. And I don't disagree with, I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole either, because we already have that in motion. So
Yeah.
really, you're talking education.
Yeah, the point of this discussion was to let Josh be able to have the opportunity
Exactly.
to transparently answer questions. But moreover, we actually do have an actual responsibility. Like there's a real responsibility on the part of LCPWC, township, whoever, on the environmental components, like in the education pieces. These are things that we're supposed to be doing. And that is why I had brought the initiative a few years ago for Waterside Wisdom, was to start making sure, because that wasn't, and it's nobody's fault, but again, 10 years ago, there wasn't people or anybody to really get robustly involved in
So
education.
this could be as
So this
simple as
is-
just putting it on the wisdom that we're doing, right?
It would be, yeah, adding some
Right, so
items to
find
the
somebody to come in
website
from Environmental Canada to explain.
and
that.
adding some items to the
Right, okay,
website
so
and
that's how
using
simple this would be.
the annual herbicide spraying insert to put out this kind of information. So it's a whole education piece, right?
So-
But even a lot of the information that would be on the website would be linked to other agencies. It wouldn't be our information because we don't govern.
So to
it,
start
so-
this, we could put it on our wisdom and maybe have it up and running, like have somebody come in and speak to us.
So, but we,
Really should try to do as much as possible in bringing people in to speak to us, to give everybody that information, right?
yeah, and so, but it's more than just that, right? There is things to add to the website, like even just right now, there's nothing there that says, oh, if you want to come in and harvest weeds, contact infrastructure. So there's some small pieces that we could do to update Ramara.ca to talk about that.
But we have to be careful with it too, because we don't want to advertise for other contractors either. So it's
just a line that says, if you want to come and work in Lagoon City, you need to contact infrastructure. I wouldn't be listing any contractors, but I'm not saying that that's the only piece, but I'm just saying in general, we have a responsibility to do education. And so part of that is using that insert that we send out for herbicides. We can also print materials and send them out, which is something that we haven't traditionally done. But we certainly could be doing an annual newsletter, for example, that talks about different aspects of environmental or conservation care for our waterways. So these all are pieces that we would be able to do. And I agree, we could bring a staff report back, or it can be commission driven, where we all have suggestions for different ways that we can educate the community, because it's beach care as well.
So let's do a staff
it's just a
report.
bigger
Let's
piece.
do a staff report and have it back to us. I'm curious on the question, the contractor that was talking about doing the weeds, did he meet with you? Did he come on his own and talk to you about it?
yes,
Okay.
yeah. So we discussed back and forth by email.
Right, so
Yeah.
most contractors, before they jump
Yeah.
into the weeds, do
Yeah.
something like that, they're gonna talk to the town, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but even the concern of contractors working in the canals, if it's anything that is led by the commission or the township, it's always discussed here at the meetings. It's discussed at budget. So there is the information going out. It might not be specific information, but there is the availability for people to get it. When it came to the weed spraying, it was all posted with signage online. And we also do the updates through communications there with Ashley. So,
Okay,
yeah.
so we'll just put a motion forward for a staff report on this. You covered quite a bit of it already, Josh, earlier with what you're speaking. Right?
Yeah, so I think the motion would just be just a staff report that identifies opportunities for education and updates to information available at the Lagoon City Parks and Waterways page.
And also too, what about the wisdom? Did you want to say something about that we get?
Well, I think through wisdom we've kind of accomplished, because that was the point of wisdom. So I think it's accomplished there. I think it's just more of, because there is definitely an opportunity. And again, we know that our online options are not necessarily reaching all of our publics across the board. So I think we have an opportunity to do some kind of a mail out each year or whatever it is that talks about education. So a staff report maybe.
So the motion is, Amber, and I'm not pushing, you can just take your time.
Okay, sorry. Interrupt me if this is not worded correctly. Staff report that, that staff report and identifies, sorry, 1 second. Staff report opportunities for education. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
well,
Sorry,
and
I could have done that.
yeah, no, I know but I think I mean, I guess some of it has to be driven by the commission, right? So I think it has to be a collaboration. So I think the motion has to be just a bit different, because we can't just say to staff, hey, we have ideas about education. Can you go figure out what our ideas are? Do you know what I mean? So I think it should be a collaboration between staff and the commission on educational opportunities and the communications vehicles that we would use.
Yeah, so I see your point now, and I see the problem that Amber's got. How does she say this, right?
I mean, it's just an evolution, right? It's taken a long time for us to get to a place where we're not running around figuring out how to get plants out of the canals to get to a place where we can talk about the environmental and aspects of care of the waterways.
Covered the other things like the major.
This is strictly waterways.
And you're talking, like, to me, I think we go right back to our, I guess those deputations that we get from people. I think those are great. And if we could,
Yeah, but those are online again, Cal. So, and that's the problem, is that we know that there's a massive amount of the population still that doesn't receive online communication. So
Right.
it's just looking for other
What I'm
opportunities
saying,
more
they come in
robust.
like Environmental Canada, and that, because we always learn something different when somebody comes in. Like, it'd be great to have them come in and hear their side. I'd love to see Environmental.
Okay, I think I have it. That staff provide a report on the opportunities for education and communication vehicles such as the Lagoon Parks and Waterways website page with respect to harvesting, spraying, and additives.
I mean, I just don't know if it has to be that specific. Yeah, I don't know if it has to be that like specific to the 3 items, because it could be education about native plants as well. Like, I guess it's a broader, they all come in together because it's all the same thing. If a person takes, say, what do you call that stuff? Whatever,
Why don't we
creeping
start with-
invasive weed and throws it in. So it's all,
Can we keep it specific so we know what we're reporting on? Because if it's broad, we could bring.
right. And that's why I'm saying, I think it needs to say that it's a collaboration between LCPWC and staff, because you can't know what we're looking for without us being a part of the conversation.
Well, that's why I want it to be specific.
So, well,
I
then
think
I
the
would
more
have to.
specific. It's good. Go ahead.
Sorry. But then we would have to add, like, we can do that, but then we need to add a whole list of things that would be in that staff report, right? Because even our dumping bylaw right now doesn't say you can't dump periwinkle. I was trying to think, that invasive plant, right? It doesn't say that you can't dump that, but you're not supposed to dump that. So when we're talking about education, I don't think it can be specific. We're educating on A, B, or C. It just has to be a collaboration. And then the procedure isn't necessarily there either, right? So it's not identified to the public.
But you're asking for a staff report on certain things. The collaboration could be for the waterside wisdom, maybe. For speakers to come in, or whatever we call them, all those other avenues. For a staff report, I think we have to have it somewhat specific rather than broad, because we're gonna report on those things.
Right, and so that's what I'm saying is like, we don't need a staff report on what Environment Canada says about what to put in the waterway, right? So the point of me bringing this is because there's a lot of people walking around Lagoon City concerned when they see, for example, the herbicide spraying guys are in the water unidentified as working as a contractor. They may have seen the notice that said we're spraying herbicide this week, but that doesn't mean when they see that boat floating around with guys dumping things that they know those are those guys. There's no way to identify that those people belong in the waterway. So
But the
what I'm
Parks and
talking
Waterway
about,
boat has followed them all the way around.
when I saw that boat, there was nobody anywhere near it. And then the picture that I got, there was nobody near it that was identifiable as a,
So the only time our boat wasn't with it was when they went into Turtle Lagoon because the water was too high, and couldn't get it.
yeah, so that may be, but again, now you know that, but the people did not know that. So all they saw was a boat dumping things in the water, right? So again, it's great that we have the online communication or whatever, but
Let's, Deputy Mayor, you wanted to say something?
I just feel like we're really getting off track. I think we start with a specific report from staff. It's up to them to decide if there's something missing. We ask them to come back to us with more information. We question it from there. Like, we could go on and on all day about all the different things that we want them to add, but we got to start at some point.
So Sherry, why don't you target exactly what you?
okay, you know what?
and
Let's
you're
just
talking-
defer this discussion till next month, because what I'm not asking for is Josh to revisit what he just said right here. He
Right.
already answered some of
Okay.
those
Okay,
questions,
so
right? So let's just defer this discussion till next month. And then I will create an entire list of things and then that way it will be more, I mean, we're at the end of this year anyway, so we're not in any kind of a panic, right? It would just be over the
We'll
winter
identify
education.
then, and let's bring it
Yeah,
back.
so let's just defer it and then we can make it more specific.
Because I don't think what we're after here is a big deal. It's just a matter of seeing what we're after.
It's helping people understand what we do and understand our environmental aspects. To manage the canals also means to manage them responsibly, right? So yeah, if we just defer it and then we can drill down.
Okay, so what we're going to do there is stay with it, that the in-water waters be permitted. So what you're going to do is put something together and get it out.
Yeah, so for this, we would just amend the emotion that says, and that we, defer discussion on educational pieces until.
So there's nothing there.
Something
Actually.
like
We're with the recommendation that the in-water works be permitted with consulting of the infrastructure department, which is fine, really.
Yeah, and then just, you could bring the other thing under new business if you want to do it that way and leave this.
Yeah, that you're going to get the information back, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so we can do that as new
Yeah, we
business.
can do that. Okay, so let's just, all in favor of this, we'll move on. Okay, the next one is the remuneration of council liaison and committee members. Councillor Bell.
Want to put it on the,
I'm not going to put it on the floor because there's nothing to put on. I think it's discussion, isn't it?
Through your chair, motion was brought forward after the agenda was published. The motion reads that remuneration for commission members be funded by the LCPWC and that future posting of LCPWC commissioner opportunities identify the per diem and that the per diem of LCPWC be added as a line item for future LCPWC budgets.
So we put on the floor. Councillor Bell, second by Commissioner Mason. Discussion. We'll start with the deputy.
Yeah,
mayor.
just point of order. This is new business, Cal. It needs to be put off to the next meeting. We haven't had time to discuss or explore this at all. So this is kind of just a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, I've got no problems bringing up the next meeting, but really all it's being asked is just to be put out how much money the commissioner gets. I think it was just like
But
housework.
I believe the very first part of that, Cal, is that Lagoon City Parks and Waterway pay for council members. Council members are paid by the township to be on that committee. The commissioners are paid by the commission to be on it because we are liaisons for the township.
All right, then we should get a report on it then.
So since it was my item, I wouldn't, if I may, I'd like to
Okay,
speak to it. That's okay. Thank you. So the reason I brought it is exactly because there has been discussion about whether it's volunteerism or not volunteerism, whether you're being paid or not being paid. So the first point was for clarification on who is paying commission members that per diem. And then that way there would be clarity on it. But then what it did was it raised to me that we always speak of the commission as a volunteer opportunity, but in reality, there is a per diem. And then we're not actually, when we put the call out for volunteers, it says volunteers, and it doesn't say in the call out that there is a per diem. And then that per diem is not showing in our budget. So
let's get more information on that.
So,
Because I
yeah.
didn't know who pays or whatever. I'd rather get a report.
yeah, exactly.
Before I
Yeah.
talk about
Because I don't want to be paid. I didn't sign up to be, I mean, being paid through the commission is one thing because I do a ton of work for the commission. But then being paid by council, I as a council member don't want to be paid to go to any committee or commission or board. So that's why I brought it, because I just wanted to clarify who is paying for what portion of it. And that piece we could defer, but on this one, I would like the motion that the line item is there showing that the commissioners are being.
You do know you get paid, right, for this, right?
So what I'm saying is
At the council.
right. So the question is who was being paid? So the deputy mayor is reporting that council is being paid by the township, and you 3 members are being paid by LCPWC. However, the budget does not show that the LCPWC is paying 3 per diems for 3 commission members. So we would need to show that in the budget. And also when we put the positions out, we call them volunteer positions. And that's fine. It is mostly volunteer, but there is a per diem being paid. So is it a volunteer position if there's a per diem being offered? And so I think that we just need to be clear that if you're getting a per diem, you're not a volunteer.
Well, for the amount of money that you get paid, you're
You're a volunteer. I agree. But it's just disclosing, right? It's just disclosing because the budget doesn't show that LCPWC commission members receive a per diem either. So there's no line item for it.
All right, so.
Through your chair, the treasurer will be in attendance at the next meeting to discuss the budgets, and she can clarify this information.
And I guess there's not, yeah, okay. So you just sort of state that, I don't know. Do you change that everywhere though? Like it's like I don't know. It's like it's open a can of worms. Like I never thought about this.
Well, I don't know if
But
it's opening.
from
a
now
can
on,
of worms.
you know what we need to do is get this information out sooner so that staff's got a chance to sort of work this out, right? Oh,
Yeah.
Because I was going to bring that up in new business, but we'll talk about that later, right? Okay. So what are we going to do with this? We're going to wait until we talk to the treasurer in the next meeting, or are we going to like,
Through your chair, I would still recommend that a staff bring forward a report
okay,
as you've recommended.
okay, okay. So let's just get a staff report on this then too. Okay. I didn't put a motion forward, did I? Oh, I did. Yeah, sorry. So we do have a motion. So all in favor? That's passed.
Wait, point of clarification. Is it the motion that is on the table or the motion like that?
I think
we are
receive this information.
Just receive his information with a staff report coming. I think we amended it, Cal. I want to clarify.
Oh, okay, let me listen to it again then. Sorry, I should have had it right.
So I just have that staff bring forward a report with respect to remuneration for council liaison and committee members.
Good.
All right, so that's all in favor then. Already voted. The canal tour.
Yeah. Sorry, but that's not just it, because there is the question of how is the volunteer or how is the position identified? Is it volunteer or is it not volunteer if you're receiving a per diem? And that the per diem is not typically stated in the LCPWC's outreach to the community when each position becomes available every rolling 3 years. So we can do them as separate if you feel like that's, so we could have there should still be a discussion about whether, because we need to be transparent and our budget doesn't show that there's a per diem. We have line items for admin wages, canal maintenance wages and that sort of thing, but we do not have a line item that shows the per diems for commission members. And I think that that's not
And that
right.
would come up with the treasurer, right?
Well, it
Yeah,
can,
well,
but then we
talk
have
to
to, so then we have to defer some discussion until, like, we can't just put it away or else there's no way to bring it back. So the motion
Just
would
add
have, the motion would have to be that we ask for a staff report on the remuneration and that we bring the discussion about communicating the commission rules to budget discussions.
I don't think any of this is really a big deal. It makes no difference to myself whether or not we put, well, if we want to put it forward, put it as not a volunteer that you get paid $100 and whatever it is dollars per meeting or whatever it is, and put it out there. To me, it's no big deal to do that.
I get, yeah, so there's like three different things, right? There's
Right.
who's paying who, then there's do we communicate that there's a per diem, and then there's how do we show the per diem in the budget, because we have not traditionally
So
done that.
break those all out then and and send that in, right? So we actually have that information when we talk, so we can decide, right? Like break it all down. Because there was nothing really, like, we're thinking about it as we're sitting here right now, right?
No, I had already sent, like, this is how you put motions on the floor. That's what we determined, that you would just let the clerks know that you want to bring matters. And so this is me bringing the matter. So I followed that process and procedure. So now the motion would have to have all three
Right,
pieces,
so
right?
there's no backup information here other than
Right, so
the
the,
email that came, like, I guess this morning or something.
so
right?
no, it didn't come this morning. I had asked for this to go on the agenda
Oh.
previous to this morning.
Right, but there's no information. That's what I find when I look at it. I, like the rest of us, we read the information and then we decide.
Right, so we brought discussion and
Right,
that's
so really
the
what it is,
process and
it's almost
procedures.
gonna go
So,
back to, we need more information.
right, so that's exactly what I'm saying. So our motion can't just say a staff report on the remuneration. The motion has to be all of the pieces.
But what I'd like you to do is try to identify it more. So,
I just did, so.
yeah, but like almost in writing, almost so that, trying to think of the name now. No, Amber knows, right? What we're after. Right?
Right, but
Yeah.
that's what I did. I sent Amber some motions, but I also said to Amber, I won't know what the motions are until we have discussion.
All right.
Because you can't write a motion for something that you don't know yet. So therefore you bring the business. That's the procedure that we said, is you just bring the business by asking for the matter to go on the agenda. So I did that. And now we just carry motions based on our discussion, right? That would be the next. So
Right.
that's what I'm saying. The
Yeah.
motion can't just be that we ask
Point-
who pays what. The motion would have to include all the pieces. So
All right.
the motion would
Point of
be,
order. Well, it's actually when you bring a discussion like that nobody has prepared for in new business as it is, it actually is meant to go on the next agenda, an explanation of why, and then we have time to prepare for that for the next meeting.
All right.
right, so the motion couldn't just be and a staff report on the per diems, because you've answered it, but legislative or finance hasn't answered it. So, but there's more pieces than just the per diem. There's the per diem, how is the per diem communicated, and how is the per diem captured in the budget? So the motion would have to be bringing back specific things. Josh just said just a little while ago, if you don't specifically tell us what you're asking for, then we don't know what you're asking for. So I'm saying we need to make the motion specific, right? So the motion would be that staff confirm how remuneration is paid to commission members, and that we report on how the position is advertised when it is
Just no
needed to
change,
be
yeah.
filled, and that
I'm not in
Um,
a huge rush.
it
I'll just
become
be
a
up
line
for-
item on the budget.
Your signature off in a bit better.
Yeah, thanks.
So did you get that, Amber? Like, no?
Sorry, so what I had before, and we can fill in the blanks to reword this, is that a discussion, so aside from the staff bringing a report with respect to remuneration, and that a discussion on the rules of the commission be brought forward during the 2025 budget discussion.
I don't think it's the rules. I think it's just like, we don't communicate that it's a paid position. So we're not being transparent. That's the point. We're not being transparent with the publics if we're not communicating that it's paid and our budget doesn't show it's paid.
So you had mentioned the per diem of the commission.
Yeah.
Be brought for.
Remuneration of members.
That communication be streamlined of the commission regarding remuneration of members. Mhm. Streamlined. And
Maybe we should just take a break for a minute because I need to, yeah. Well, let's take a break. It's 11:01, so we'll meet back at 11:10. 9 minutes. Yeah. Everybody go with that? Okay. So we're back now. Okay, Amber, would you like to read the motion, please?
Yes. That staff prepare a report regarding remuneration of Lagoon City Parks and Waterways Commission, confirming how payment is allocated and budgeted for members and council members, and that the rate of remuneration be communicated when advertising the position.
Okay, you're good with that? Deputy Mayor, you heard it? Looks like you're outside now. So all in favor? It passes. The next one is 9.3, the canal tour, items for discussion. The special Lagoon City Parks and Waterways Commission's meeting of 24th of June. The minutes, canal tour minutes. The recommendation that we direct staff to proceed with items discussed from the canal tour that require further action, including, that's what I guess we're going to talk about. So who would like to speak first? I'm going to let you go first. We'll let somebody else go first. We don't have, Deputy Mayor, do you want to go first? No. Okay, Councillor Bell, you got it.
You make me sound like I talk too much.
Well, I'm
Pam.
not going
Never
first, you
mind.
are, so.
No, we brought, because we did have some good discussions on the boat tour, and then in line with some of the things we've already done. So we had all of our canals added to the GIS, and there's the map that's online now is really nice, easy for people to read. But then we had talked about the naming of the clean flow houses, and that was kind of two-part. One, so that amongst ourselves, we would be able to say, oh, I'm talking to you about turtle number one, let's say, or whatever it is. But also too, so that the public, if they have a concern or a question, they can identify to us, I'm asking you about turtle number one or whatever. So that was kind of where that discussion came from. And so it's not a big thing. And budgetary, I think it would just be like plaques that name them, but it would more be internally. It would just, I think, of the staff report to tell us what do you want to call them and how do you want to refer to them. And then we would be able to have a legend there on the map page that updates people so that when because I have had calls where they'll say to me, you know, that the door is open over there or that thing's making noise. And you try to say, well, where do you mean? And they don't know and you don't know because they say things like, oh, beside the blue house or beside Poplar or whatever. And so you don't have a proper identification. So that's kind of where that came from, was just like a naming for each of the houses. And then you would put the plaque on saying Turtle 1, Turtle 2, whatever, Poplar 1, however. So that would just be a staff report so that we would know, but also it would be what would those little plaques cost or whatever. So it would be two parts. So that was the one idea that we talked about. The other one I pulled out was kiosk location, because, and so this would be more than just kiosk location. It would be a much bigger discussion and probably require community, well, not probably, it would require community engagement. But I know, Cal, way back when, you had advocated strongly for that kiosk not to be removed at one point in time when it was being considered. And you had the foresight to realize that if you didn't want to take away any kind of cement pad or any existing thing and then run into not being able to do something with it later. So on the street, kind of anecdotal, what I've heard from residents is they would love to have a pavilion similar to what's been constructed at Lovely Day. And so that pavilion would allow space for picnic tables, and you could have a party, a band, whatever, that wouldn't have to get canceled because of weather, for example. But it would, maybe you'd have Friday night dances. I don't know what you would have there. It would just be open for who knows what, right? But since we've kind of reached the point now where we are past buying the really expensive pieces of equipment, I don't know that we could even do this for 25 necessarily. But I think for 25, what we could do is community engagement on what would we like to see on our private beaches. Like, how can we improve their use? So so kind of sprung off that kiosk location only because the cement pad's already there. So you would probably be, I don't know, this would all be infrastructure stuff, but hopefully just be expanding the existing pad versus putting in a new one. And then, because there would obviously be finding out from conservation in that. So in some, it wasn't, the kiosk was part of that discussion, but it was more in the sense of, can we make a pavilion there? And then it just, the bigger kind of conversation was, have we reached the point under budget now where we can start to talk about more robust beach improvements? And then that might include like things like a Moby pad or the water wheelchair that would allow it to be, the private beaches to be more accessible. And one of the things I found when I'm searching online is that townships sometimes just own one, let's say, or two, and you could rent it out. So maybe that would be, so I guess that kiosk location discussion wasn't really the location per se. It was what can we do with that space? And so that kiosk could hold rental equipment, but off that pad, we could make a pavilion. So I think in what I would say was that wasn't necessarily location. It was more like the bigger discussion around community engagement and how we get that process going. How do you want to use the private beaches for 25? We start there, and then maybe you'd be looking at budgeting in 26, but you wouldn't be able to budget until we know what the community wants. And I know we talked about like a community garden opportunity because it's right by the water and great gathering space. So I think there's an opportunity to engage now that we're in a different position to find out how do people want to use the beaches. And I didn't pull out any of the other specifics, I don't think, off of that. Those were the two that I looked at and thought we should talk more about off that list. Oh, no, sorry. And then artwork on the bridges was the third one. Because we did the Name the Harvester contest 2 years ago now. And so I thought the other thing we could engage on is once the bridges are both completed, the signs that are on them are quite faded. And so we could engage on what people might like to see on the bridges, if anything. Maybe it doesn't matter to them that there's signs there anymore. But if it did, it would also eventually be budgetary, right? So maybe we could allocate something for it when we get to the budget discussion for next year, because I don't think this one's as big a piece. And then maybe over the winter, we could engage on that one and see what people might like to see on the bridges. Because I have no idea without asking. Yeah.
Not the 20 or 10 kilometer an hour signs.
But I mean, those signs were cool. Those were neat, those
Well,
signs.
unfortunately, we can't touch them. Or do
But
anything
they're,
with them, right?
yeah, and they're quite faded.
Oh, Ashley.
Could this be just one community engagement? What do people want to see in Lagoon City, especially on that private part? Because I feel like if we're going to go out more than once, people tend to not engage as often. So I think if you want to have community engagement, and if you're going to request a report from staff, it's altogether kind of what you want to see in Lagoon City, so you can touch all those points.
Perfect. Good idea.
Yeah, and I think the timeline should be pretty long, because when we're doing 4 or 6 weeks, I don't think it's not getting us back enough information.
Yeah.
Like I think we need, and then because then we can do an opportunity for like an in-person engagement at Lagoon City's Community Center, for example. Maybe work with them and hear from people in person what kinds of things they'd like, and have just a more open discussion about it. Because the big thing that we haven't been able to do for so many years is think about the beaches and that sort of thing because of all those massive.
Well, I think a
equipment
budget
purchases.
then, once we see the money that we like that we supposedly have, right? And then we'll look at what, infrastructure is recommending and so on and so forth, then this would really control a lot. Because I agree. I think we should do something with the kiosk. I know the pavilion's a good idea, but I never want to lose the water there and the sewer there.
Oh, I think you can keep both. I think.
No, we have to
Yeah,
keep
like you
it.
keep
We
the
will not
kiosk
get
would be
rid of
still
that.
part of it, but you'd be
Yeah.
able to build off
Yeah.
that cement
Well,
pattern. But
there's-
that's all infrastructure.
And I'd like to know what the residents of Lagoon City think about it, 'cause they're
Definitely.
gonna be paying for it and the bridge. And Ashley has a great point. We should put all that
Yeah.
together as one package and pull it out there and really push it and hold it out there for a long time and get as many people in as possible. What we did with the bridge was phenomenal. It was great, and we'll do the same thing.
Yeah,
again.
and I think just for a longer time period, because we have the opportunity, knowing that we're having this discussion this early, to have lots and lots of engagement time. So maybe, yeah, when they're here, and then when we get to the budget part, we can allocate whatever X we all agree to for, and then we won't know what the engagement or what the amount is, or sorry, we won't know what the amount is for until after engagement, but to talk about allocating it at that point. But so anyway, those were the things I pulled out from our big list of our boat tour, and I don't know if anybody else had things.
I personally, I didn't pull anything out, but I liked the actual get out there and, show everybody what was out there, talk to all our people, have infrastructure, had Amber out there. So it was great that we could see what we're talking about and the way we went. And it was great, and it was great that infrastructure was there. So to me, it was just getting out there, and I know it has to be a closed session to start with because of, I guess it's information session. But after that, I think from now on, we'll always bring it back out again, because there's nothing really being talked in there that's really a closed session that I can see. So, and as you talk about transparency. So, Does anybody else have any more to discuss? So how to handle what you've just said there? Do we want to do a report, or do you want to wait and do budget and then we can see, like, go back to this, right? With the engagement and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think that yeah, that was why I said, can we defer the budget till after we do this? Because then these pieces would then become part of the budget. So I don't know if we need them.
No, I don't want to defer the budget.
No, defer this conversation.
Yeah, okay.
I wanted to defer the budget conversation at the beginning of the meeting until now so that these pieces could be considered, because we hadn't talked about them at the beginning of the meeting.
Right. Okay.
Right. So I don't know, do we make a motion now to defer those items I just said to the budget and then go ahead and talk about it at the budget, or is that necessary from a legislative perspective?
Jen? Your mic?
I used to a sliding chair.
It was Ashley reminded us.
What you could do is that you could receive the items discussed in the canal tour, and that the matters, including directional canal signage, kiosk and community survey and artwork on bridges, be circulated to budget discussions.
Yeah,
Sounds good. Any more discussion on this? No, nothing there. All in favor? It's passed. Now we're to new business, I guess.
Well, now we would go to the budget discussion that we deferred.
We got that and new business. We'll do.
I don't know. So
Do we do the budget discussion or new business?
Sorry, through your chair, I don't believe I had a mover or seconder for that last motion. Or I don't recall.
I don't know. I think it was this way. Was that? Share and then
Okay.
yeah.
Apologize.
Okay, it was the deputy, or not the counselor and Commissioner Mason. And we've already done all in favor. So it doesn't matter to me. We can talk new business. We can talk budget. We're not going to talk a lot of budget because I'm not prepared for that.
So through your chair, if you have nothing to add right now, then we just receive this template for information. So that the motion reads that the 2025 LCPW budget wish list be received at the September meeting, and that the treasurer attend the September meeting to discuss the proposed LCPW budget.
Okay, so now I got to put that on. Or I already have it.
sorry, just I have,
It was already on the floor. Counselor Bell moved it and Commissioner Mason seconded it.
Okay, and we just haven't finished with it. Okay.
but I did have one thing actually to specifically for the budget discussions. So I do need to add something to that motion. Because I was hoping to have a staff report on the clean flow system, like in collaboration with Weeds Be Gone. And I don't know if we can have that for September's initial discussions, but what we want to do with clean flow will be a big part of, like, it's great that if we all bring our wish list next time, but on that wish list, that would be our biggest expense, would be any clean flow expansion. So I think we need to know what Weeds Be Gone is looking for. So if we could have that for September, then that can all be wrapped into the discussion, because it would drive what we might be able to spend on the beach. So we kind of need to know what's being recommended to be spent at Clean Flow next year. So it would just be that, and a staff report on the 2025 clean flow, proposed 2025 clean flow expansion.
The next part of the clean flow system is going to be a lot trickier because we've got the sailboats. Yeah.
Yeah, so the staff report, yeah.
Hey, Cal,
If we can actually even do it. Yes, Deputy Mayor.
is there any way that we can get some kind of proposal from Clean Flow first as to what their recommendations are? I always hate going to them with a budgeted number and say, this is what we have to spend this year, because they're going to find a way to fill it. I'd much rather say this is what we want to expand to with some of the recommendations, and then get itemized pricing, and we can decide what we're going to do based on that, as opposed to giving them a number to spend.
So
That's what I just asked for, a staff report.
yeah. Are you okay with that, Josh?
Yeah, and we kind of had discussions in the spring of where we were looking for expansion, so we can kind of use that. We can go to Clean Flow and we can look at other contractors, because there is a few more contractors starting to pop up that do the same thing and get comparable pricing.
I think there should be competition, yeah. Because this is our final one really now. This is the final, almost the final.
Yeah, this is just the filling in of the last few sections.
That's pretty well what it is. And it's the trickier part is trying to make that puzzle fit now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the question too is, I guess, and it should be talked about, are we going over towards the marina? Yeah,
It can all be in the report.
yeah. Oh, you're gonna include the marina too?
Well, we'll look at ownership of property. We won't be going on private property. We'll do our own.
That's. Yeah, okay, that's another discussion too, though. Okay. So that's what we're doing then. So I got to put that motion in there somewhere, right?
I think Amber,
Yeah, I've just worded it the exact same way that Councillor Bell has.
Okay. So now are we discussing the budget now, right? So we're just talking, because I know a lot of us aren't prepared, but just the different ideas that you have, I guess. That's what we're doing here, so that the treasurer has a rough idea of what we're looking at when she comes here next September. Or this September. Okay,
so I know, I was just gonna say, so if there's any, I think if there's any staff reports required, this is the time. So if you guys have, I know, because this might be new for everybody too, right? So I just want to add, like, so if you have something, it might sound like unicorns and rainbows, right? Pie in the sky, but this is the time to say, this is where I would want to get a staff report on costing of X, right? So if you do have ideas, or, I mean, I guess, yeah, because we probably want to pass the budget in October again or November and da. So in order to do that, if there is something, so from my perspective, my thing would be, what would it cost and what is required to put a pavilion out? Because if we decided to budget for that and then do community engagement on it, we still have to know how much it costs, right? Or else we can't. So we might want to know that.
But depending on those larger projects, it could be the engagement investigation for 25 and implementation construction in 26. Because simply saying a pavilion going here, I can guess what size. Like, there's a lot of guesses. The same with, yes, infrastructure looks after the grounds. But to tie into the existing pad and structure, we're not qualified. So there's engineering consulting fees incorporated with that. So yeah, if there's anything you guys think that you might want included in the 25 budget, we need to know to get base pricing, even if it is just an idea. It helps us get the budgeting process, because yeah, like the councillor said, Councillor Bell said, we like to get the budget passed in October, at least first draft to council. That way we have a budget in place going early on in 2025.
Yeah. So what else do you have there? You finished?
No, well, I was just gonna say, maybe just so that we have it, and so that when we try to go do community engagement on it, would you be able to just bring the staff report related to the one at Lovely Day? Like, just, I know it won't be the exact same cost as at Lagoon City, but just a staff report that gives like an idea, something that, you know, people can get their mind around. If we put engagement out and we don't know whether it costs 100,000 versus 500,000, that could make a difference on the engagement. So maybe that part would be helpful, just enough to give us an idea. And then I guess the other thing, because it looks to me like, Greg, you look like you have ideas, but you don't know what they are yet.
Well, I just thought something in perpetuity, you know, like beach management on an annual basis rather than leaving it for years or perhaps even decades, because I think we chased it back about 7 years worth. Whereas, you know, that beach looked nothing like it did now in, say, 1970 or 80 or 90, for example. So there's no point in just, you know, trying to put things back and chase it. Why not get it to a point where it's at a level that can be maintained?
So, who's tracking this? Are you tracking what?
Maybe, I wonder if, could we make a recommendation? So normally I know we always have discussions here or whatever, but I think because everybody's kind of, their faces right now to me in this room are saying, I didn't know that I was allowed to bring a wish list. So I'm wondering if under this circumstance, maybe if everybody by the, you know, think about it over the weekend and try to tell Josh as soon as next week, so that and just email and still copy the clerks and that and the rest of us, but just email and say, you know, here's some things that if you could just bring some ballpark numbers back for that budget discussion, just so that we have like a foundation of something to talk about. Because it looks like nobody really knows what their wish list is right now.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
Yeah.
I do like that idea. Like you said earlier, that the beaches look great from offshore looking back, but you know, beaches are made to be used rather than looked at. And I think there's a great difference between,
we lost a lot.
those two things.
We've lost a lot.
oh, we've lost a ton
Since I've been
and
here.
it's,
amazing what's
I
gone.
don't see it coming back
So I
unless
just
we
like
do
from-
something on a perpetual basis.
What we need to do is reclaim what we got.
Exactly.
And,
And that's where I thought we were
And
going
that's
down
really
that road.
should be
I
dated.
don't think we did. Yeah.
So I guess from a legislative perspective, like we normally we wouldn't do a staff report by an individual asking for a staff report, but because we're where we are and then we're trying to do this for October and whatever else, I guess my question is, could commission members over the next, say, week, so that Josh has time and Chris has time, just submit any ideas that they have where it would give Josh the opportunity to just not a formal quote or anything like that, but just so he has
Okay,
some
so what
ideas
you
about
don't
what we
have-
might bring in
right.
September,
So what you
right?
don't,
Just-
if you don't say anything in the next little while, like in this meeting, just send that information to Josh and to Amber, copy the two of them, and then they can take it and they'll talk to the treasurer. Okay, because I just want to go over a couple things like myself. I want to throw the beach cleaner back into this, the cleaner. Remember we
It
talked-
is budgeted for this year. I did ask for some direction of what you guys were looking for at a past meeting.
Right.
And it was basically see what you can get.
Well,
So we're seeing what we can get for the budgeted amount.
to me, though, with the beach cleaner, what I think should happen really is council should probably talk to us because they may want to be in on it because they may want to do their beaches too. Because we're not.
And that is part of a discussion. Right now, we don't have a parks crew. We don't have the staff to do that.
Right.
We are looking to expand in the future.
Mhm.
And there could be some sort of agreement at that point, but currently right now, in my opinion, I don't have the staff or the time to do it on our public beaches.
So if we had purchased a beach cleaner though, we would not be able to hire somebody for 4 months to do it?
Yes, it's the discussion from what I understood of it was it would be put on with the contractor that's currently looking after the beach.
But he didn't want to, like, didn't we offer this already last budget and nobody came forward to do it?
There is somebody looking after the beach now. There is a contractor that.
No,
drags-
I mean to clean the beach. They didn't want to pay for the beach cleaner.
They didn't want to purchase the equipment.
Exactly, so we
Yeah,
couldn't pay
so
anybody.
The committee budget or the commission, sorry, budgeted to purchase a beach cleaner with the intention of the contractor using it. From my understanding.
So can we budget this time that we purchase it? And if we can't get him to do it, then we hire our own person through the town to do
Oh,
it?
yeah, yeah, like it all depends on the style of machine we look at, like you can get PTO hydraulic driven machines. That you pull with a tractor, you can get manual ones, you basically walk and pull like a great big rake. So it's.
Well, I think it's up to you, Josh. You decide what's needed, right? Like you're the expert on it, right?
Yes, kind of, not really, but.
I don't know. All I know, I many years ago, I went with Todd over to Barry and we watched theirs and it was an amazing piece of equipment.
Yeah, it is. It
really
really
is.
has got one. We've looked at it. They're a couple $100,000 to get the tractor and the cleaner.
We didn't want to
Because
go
a
that
lot of
high.
them are tractor driven. But they have much larger beaches that they do all of their beaches with them. Right now, we're kind of looking, I think eventually, if the township has a parks department, it could be used at Lovely Day, it could be used at the public beach. But other than that, we don't really have a lot of sandy beaches, other than the two private beaches, Lagoon City. So
Can you use them in parks and to clean up all the bird stuff or?
not really, because it goes with the sand.
Oh.
If you were to use it in the physical playgrounds, it just get bunged up with, because we're using wood chips within the playgrounds. It wouldn't clean the wood chips. It wouldn't go through the screens. So it's a single use. It's only for sandy beaches. And it cleans the sand of any debris within the sand.
So how about you just give us a report then on what machine you think we would
Yeah.
need for Lagoon City? Because we don't have that many beaches in Ramara. Obviously, council doesn't want to get involved in it.
Yeah.
Or they may want to get involved in it for that one beach down Lagoon City. It's up to them. you know,
Yeah,
'cause we're down
I
there
think in the
anyways.
future, for sure, the township would probably utilize it and there'd be some sort of agreement or compensation or however we want to look at it for the use of the machine.
Okay,
Um,
so let's bring it forward to the budget then.
well, it's already in this year's
It's in
budget.
there, okay.
Uh,
The clean flow system, we already got, sorry.
Certainly, I think for the beach cleaner, I guess there are machines that can go a little bit deeper into the sand. I think one of the concerns that Commissioner Schutz-Smith has brought forward is the continued growth. If the beach cleaner actually was one of these cleaners that actually got down and dug the roots out, cleaned that stuff out, I think that's something that we should consider when we're looking at the specification.
Yeah, 100%, I agree.
Never
But
thought.
again, we get to that limitation of the equipment, so.
Right.
50,000 for the beach cleaner doesn't really cover the equipment tractor that's gonna have to pull it, so.
I guess my other thing too, Josh, is you're gonna take a look at the equipment we got now, whether or not we have to look at, you know, maintenance on it, new equipment.
Yeah, all of the equipment that we currently use, the 2 harvesters, the barge, we're down to the 1 conveyor just because of only that 1 offload site. Pontoon boat's brand new. All the equipment is fairly new other than the old harvester, and we did do quite a bit of work in the past on it to keep the maintenance up, that way we're not having to replace it. There may be a couple things come up with the new harvester. We're having a couple issues with the hydraulic pack on it. We're hoping to get through the summer with it now, and then once we get it finished harvesting, we'll send it out for some repairs this winter. But it should fall within the budget that we currently have.
That's the old one that you're talking about?
The new one.
Oh, the new one.
Yes, yeah.
Hmm.
So.
There's a lot of issues with that there.
It's within the hydraulic pack. So one of the seals is leaking, and it's basically you have to split the whole engine from the hydraulics to repair that seal. It's not something you can do in the water, and it's not something that we're capable of doing ourselves. So it'd be sent out over the winter to do the work on it. So
It's, so you're on that.
Would it be under warranty?
no, we're out of warranty on that machine here now. So.
And the other thing is too, do you like need new equipment to make our operation more efficient, or is there things out there we should be looking at, such as a skimmer or things like that?
It's all things we can look at. Chris kind of running operations, he might be able to comment, but I think the way we're running it now is it's economical. It works well. Possibly for the algae in the spring and fall, maybe. But we were looking in with Aquarius at that time to see if a screen could go over the conveyors that would allow picking up of that the algae that do grow and sit on the surface. So something along those lines may be a possibility in the future. But yeah, we can look at a few different options. I don't think there'd be any big capital equipment purchases that I can foresee anyways. So.
And I guess the other thing is anything that would speed up the weed removal if we need, oh, sorry, you wanted to speak?
Yeah, just one piece of equipment that might want to be thought about moving forward, and maybe there can be some sort of a shared agreement between the commission and the township. I don't know how that works that way or not. But instead of renting a piece of equipment every year for the offload site for weed moving and stuff in the bin, there might be the opportunity to purchase like a small mini X or something like that. That could be shared agreement between the municipality and the Lagoon City. So then there's a sense of ownership with it as well, right? So it's multifunctional, and it would serve both the municipality and the Lagoon City Parks and Waterway Commission fantastically. So that would be a consideration too, is that piece of equipment and maybe a shared ownership sort of thing.
But yeah, I know the previous commission was always looking at buying that. They always talked about buying one. And I guess speeding up the weed removal, so whatever you come up with, I'm all right with that. Is there any shore wall repairs or anything we're responsible for?
Not that I can think of. I think everything's pretty well in good shape.
I
Um,
think they're in good shape. I would look at it. I
yeah.
just thought I'd check with you. And the art we already talked about. And what about, I don't know, trees on the beaches? Should we be looking at putting like whatever, I don't know what they are, I have to Google it, but beach trees or something that survive, down there?
Yeah, so within this year's budget, I was actually just talking to our arborists. They're going to be looking at all the trees within the two private beaches to see what condition they're in. They're going to do an assessment for me on everything. And then I was going to ask them for recommendations moving forward to fill in because a lot of the willow trees are starting to go. So recommendations of species to put in that would fill in those areas.
Perfect. You're way ahead of me then. Holy jumping like. So that was all I've got for now, but it sounds like you've got it all in hand.
With global warming, maybe we can look at some palm trees in the future.
Councilor Bell.
Thank you. I guess on the engagement thing, I should have added, so the Moby pads, those are so that there's wheelchair access down to the water. From what the cost of them is, I can Google that myself. But I guess if that was something that we wanted to put in engagement, we would also need to know more from staff as far as like, can you put it out? And if we did purchase them, where can you store them and that kind of thing? So there might be more of a cost than the actual piece of equipment. So I wonder if we can get just like an idea about what that might be also as well, so that we've got that for the engagement piece, because we right now, the beaches aren't accessible. So that could improve use of the beaches.
Would it be for both beaches or just one?
I mean, that would have to be a discussion, I suppose, on that engagement, and they are
guess you can
different.
just
So
multiply
yeah,
it by
you'd probably need for both because one's a way longer run than the other one.
Yeah.
So it'd probably be for both.
If you got something, good, you're good. Okay, and don't forget, you can send your information in the next one. Yep, okay.
I guess just one thing, how much time window do you want to give everybody, Josh, if you guys are trying to come back, like to just get ballpark? I know that like 6 months would be desirable.
Depends how complex the asks are.
So as quickly as possible.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so would you want to just read our motion there? Okay.
So the motion reads that the 2025 LCPW budget wish list be received at the September meeting, that the treasurer attend the September meeting to discuss the proposed LCPW budget, and that staff report on the proposed 2025 clean flow management. And that was it, unless you would like me to add that a report for Moby pads be added to that motion right now. Or is that more a consideration for later? Like after community engagement?
No, I think we need it now because you can't engage the community
Okay.
unless they know what it costs, right? So, and then it wasn't for clean flow management, it was for clean flow expansion.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Just, yeah. Yeah, so the lovely day, the costing on lovely day as a comparison, and then the costing of Moby pads, and that's just informational so that it can be part of the engagement.
So lovely day because of the age of it. I'm just gonna take the size and get updated numbers. Okay.
Okay, before we vote on this, I'll just double check. Deputy Mayor, you're back now. Did you want to put anything in for the budget? You're muted.
Thanks, Cal. I'll put a list in over the weekend before the deadline.
Perfect. Okay. All in favor? That's passed. Now I believe we're in new business. Who would like to go first in new business? I can go first if you want. You're tired of going first? Okay. All right. No, I've got some things here. One of the things I do want to talk about is the fence that we've got that separates where the gate is, Josh. I've noticed every time I go out, people are cutting, hanging right over the shore wall and going around the fence that way. I know at the commission, Todd was after us to run it all the way down, and Kathy wouldn't do it for whatever reason. So what I'd like to do is get it extended to stop the people, because the inn's got theirs all the way down. Everybody else brings it all the way down. So they're not, that's how basically they're getting up along the peninsula, I guess along where the gas docks used to be. So you know the fence I'm talking about?
Not really. I was thinking.
You know where the
along
gate
side of
is?
Beach, yeah.
The pole goes, it stops right just before the shore wall. So you just walk along the shore wall to go around it.
It's not our property.
Where the gate is? We put the gate in.
We have an easement across it, but it's not our property. It's Talisker property. So the inn owns the section there and then the driveway down to the gas docks.
Right.
The old gas docks is Talisker property.
So the gate that we put in is to Alistair's property
Yes.
and we, oh,
We had,
we can't touch
we
that.
had permission to put that in.
so we'd have to get permission from them to do
Yes.
that?
Yeah.
Should we ask them for permission then, or what should we do then? Because somebody's gonna fall in the water or something.
So if we were to fence that off, there has been the request to keep the gates closed. How would you gain access? Other than, or so you want no access to the hotel?
No, it's basically what they're doing is they're parking in the parking lot of the hotel and they're just walking around and walking up there.
So you want everybody to go off the road access point there? And not through the hotel to access the
No,
beaches?
through the beach access, yeah, not through the driveway. That's why we put the gate up there to stop
Okay,
the
yeah,
access.
we can inquire with the owner.
If you wouldn't mind, yeah,
Yeah.
because I know that the inn put theirs all the way down and they.
Yeah, I think just that there's been a ton of concern, just, it's not, but because people are leaving garbage and things out there. And that's where the concern is coming from. It's not about, I just want to be clear so that people don't think we're implying anything. And the issues and the concerns have been around all that garbage, right? So and when we did the beach clean or the cleanups out there last 2 years ago, which we should do this year, if anybody wants to come along for the ride, we'll do it. But what we found out there was tons and tons of like the styrofoam containers and fishing lures and fishing lines and, just garbage and debris was down in between. Now, some of it probably is getting caught up by, just coming in off the water, but I think a lot of it has to do with just people fishing and things like that out there. Yeah. So I just want to, it isn't about blocking people. It's more about, just the garbage and things that end up out there.
Okay, the other thing I had was, the weeds. I think it's the best I've ever seen this year. I just wanted to bring that new business. I think you guys done a great job. Thank you very much. It's been phenomenal. I've never seen it as good. This is one of our better years again. And I think every year I say that it's getting better and better. So great work. And that new machine just works great. The other thing I had was I just wanted to ask you, Commissioner Smith, are you still pursuing the beach party or are we going to put that one?
Sorry,
Do you think next year?
Your chair?
Cal Amber.
Oh, sorry, Amber.
just because it is direction for staff, if we could put a motion on the table that staff are to inquire with the property owner for consideration to expand the fence.
Perfect. Thank you. We'll put it on the floor, Counselor, second by Commissioner Nason. All in favor? That's passed. Going back to that, so we'll do it next year then, right? Yeah.
I've spoken to them. That they realized they got something for nothing in the sense of the word, but they did have bookings that they turned down. So they missed out on opportunities. So there was that kind of balancing act, but they realized that they owe us a favor per se. So they're willing to compensate for that.
So you just keep that in mind, I guess. next
Yes,
year.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe we can do it at budget discussion and make and allocate again like we did last year, right?
Alright. And then the other thing too, what I wanted to do is I wanted to try to get more like before in our parks and waterways, there used to be, and there's no actual, it's not there. I looked at the bylaws and so on and so forth, that when we're putting things forward, I want to put it out 3 or 4 days, like a cutoff. So that we get, the information, these guys get a chance to get it all together if they have questions. So then we have our meetings, we don't flounder as much, right? We seem to hit it better, right? That's what I'm after right now. Put something in motion.
So you want just like a timeline? Because I did that if that's what because I followed that procedure and I
I'm
let
not
Amber know.
saying-
No.
Well, I'm not
So
saying here, but what I'm saying is, when I look to see, like the timeline, like before, we were always told that if we didn't have it in within 4 days or 5 days, whatever's comfortable for Kathy, that it wasn't accepted. So then when I went to look, there's nothing there. So I think we should have something there that says, okay, and leave it up to say, Amber, if there's an emergency, then you throw it in, but you don't just put everything in, right? You just, you know what I mean? Unless we have an opportunity for our staff to look at it and away we go. That's what I'm really after.
So you're asking for a procedure amendment and I'm going to be asking for one too, so we can combine them maybe.
So what was that, Amber? Sorry.
Through your chair, was going to recommend that we could do that too, is that put together a motion just to amend the procedure bylaw to include provisions that address agenda timelines.
Okay. So, and sorry, and I didn't hear, did you say a time or just amend it?
To amend the provisions to address agenda timelines.
So I didn't hear what I got there. What, so how many days?
So I think that's what we have to-
Oh, it would just be, a report will come forward. with
Oh, you're just gonna
respect
do
to
a
that.
report, send it back to us about amending. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Okay. I'm sorry. All right. So that's what I want to put on the floor then. You're gonna-
No,
Well,
I just have a procedure amendment too, so I don't
can't
know.
put it on the floor, actually, it was on the chair.
I can put it on the floor
You go.
because I want to do a procedure amendment. So if I can do them both at the same time, but I can wait until, unless you have another one on your list.
No, I think I've got all that now. I'm on these different pages now, guys. Just hold on. Okay, you go, and if I find it, I'll.
Okay, so my procedure amendment was for that the item announcements and inquiries, easy for me to say, announcements and inquiries from members of commission be added to the LCPWC agenda, because we do have that on our council agendas. And oftentimes when we do make our announcements like, yay, you guys rock the waterways, we're doing it sort of in discussion, and we're not doing it under a formal agenda item. So if we're going to talk about the procedure bylaw, as far as timelines for submitting items, then also my other thing would be to add that announcements and inquiries from members of commission. So it would be two procedure bylaw. I just may as well put them as one motion.
So announcements, I'm good with, what do you do with inquiries? What is that?
Well, just like, you know, how we would do at council, if you had an inquiry about, I don't know, when is Ramara Road 47, or what's an update on Ramara Road 47 might have been one at
Don't we do
council.
that in new business?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Right now, new business, we're using it as a way to do announcements and inquiries,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure if it's right. Like, it doesn't meet sort of the,
All right, that's fine.
yeah. But because I have an announcement and I was like, geez, we're always making these willy-nilly, so.
I know, I agree with you 100%. Any discussion on that? What was, would you want to read that motion?
That staff bring forward a report to amend the LCPWC procedure bylaw to include the provision to address agenda timelines, and that the announcement and inquiries headline be considered to be added to the agendas.
Councilor Bell.
Yeah, and I guess, because you just said agenda timelines, but just to be more specific about, you know, commission's requests for matters to be added to the agenda, just to make, and then also for when the minutes would be available for distribution, because I don't think we have that. And I think in council, you have the time. I don't think we have it in the council, but we probably should have an expectation of when we submit our items, when the agenda is published, and then when our minutes are published. So it should probably be all three pieces.
So really, it's gonna say announcements. Partnership. I think it's good. I'm okay with it. I think it's a good idea. Yeah. All right. So who put that motion forward then? Oh, so you want to?
Yeah, I'll put it in then.
And you're put on the table, and a second by Commissioner Schussman. Okay, all in favor on that? That's passed. And I don't know, you're popping in and out on me. So Deputy Mayor, did you have anything to say in new business?
Yeah, no, I'm not popping in and out, Cal. I just turned my camera off to reserve the battery just to get through the meeting. It's been a long one.
Yeah, I look up. I'm wondering if you're listening. That was the other. I assume you're listening, but I don't see you. Okay, not a problem. So we're done with that. So I don't really have any more motions. So I'm going to close session. Oh, sorry, Amber.
There are a few items that we did bring forward. So solicitor expenses is the next one that I have here written down.
I didn't hear you. Sorry.
Sorry, solicitor expenses was the next item.
Solicitor
To be-
expenses.
It was one of the ones he deferred when we did.
Oh,
the
that
count
was the one that
searcher.
was blocked out then, right? What did you
So well, I guess it was a discussion because my understanding, and that was from your information actually, was that when former CAO Pinsent was here, there had been discussion at commission about who's responsible for the legal expenses, given that the properties are owned by the Township of Ramara. We're just a management board. So why was a management board paying legal fees? And so I guess what it is just a staff report that's probably being requested on who is responsible for
Yeah.
legal fees, right? So it was really just a question, but my understanding from the Pinsent time period was that it was the township who's responsible for
I
legal.
think about it was, because I remember, yeah.
Yeah, because
It's
you had
still
brought
on-
that
I know, there's so
discussion.
many
I know.
things
You
happening.
brought it. It's just that it was a long time, like you had brought it a couple of years ago, like
Yeah.
before I was on. So I think we just need clarification on who's responsible for legal fees. Because yeah, they're showing up again here. Now, at the time, former CAO Drinkwalter was here and he said, yes, the township is responsible and you won't see any legal on your
Okay, so. let's confirm it.
budget
Yeah,
anymore, but now we're seeing it again. So I just want to get some clarity on
good
that.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
So do you want me to do a motion for a staff report then on legal fees? The motion would be that staff bring back a report on the responsibility for legal fees associated to Lagoon City Parks and Waterways Commission business.
So you put it on the floor, seconded by Commissioner Mason. I think we already discussed it, so all in favor? It's passed. And do I have everything else there, Amber, that we?
I have an announcement, so that's why I had to add in.
No, but just before I get to you, then, is there anything else, Amber?
I have here duckweed. Recall what that was with reference to? The spraying?
The duckweed.
Yeah, that was because I just had asked the line item, but that could go under the actual budget
Oh, I
discussion.
see.
But I don't know. I assume it's the herbicide. Am I correct?
Yeah, so what
Yeah.
we ended up doing with last year's budget, because we had duckweed as well as canal maintenance, we amalgamated the two of them just to have one budget item.
Yeah.
So that covers basically all the canal maintenance, the spraying, anything to do with canal maintenance. So
But there's a line item called duckweed on the budget. So that's exactly why I was confused, because I was like, okay, so is this herbicide or not? Because it's its own line item. And then, I'm saying it's okay if it's its own line item, but I think it should say herbicide application, because I'm not even sure if people were reading the budget, they might not know what does duckweed mean. Duckweed mean
I don't know what duckweed. Oh, I know what it is.
so if it was supposed to be combined, then either combine it or call it herbicide application, one or the other.
that was.
Why don't we just find out from the treasurer?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, just wait for the treasurer.
Mostly I wanted to make sure it really was the herbicide application, because I assumed so.
I think I've always assumed it when I've looked at it, because
Yeah, so in the amount that's in there was just for the signage for the duckweed spraying. It's just in the wrong column. So it should have been under contract services.
Oh, okay, yeah, because sorry, Cal, I jumped in, but because that's the other thing too, is like when we print flyers or whatever, we end up with more than one line item. So I think we should just bring that up budget, because we don't need that, like the LCPWC other that we just talked about.
Yeah.
I don't know why we would have a different line item for printing when we already have a line item for printing. So maybe with that discussion, we can just say, let's
Yeah.
defer this to budget discussion.
okay. So we've deferred okay, anything else? Then you had that something. Yeah, I'll wait, Amber. Yeah.
So the other item that I have written here that we brought forward, a policy with respect to security. So the draft resolution is that staff communicate security throughout the summer months with the security throughout the summer months on a monthly basis with respect to any beach concerns, and that staff investigate an enforcement policy for the 2025 season.
Councilor Bell.
Yeah, the only thing I would add, well, I guess it can all be part of that report, but we have had situations where we've heard as a commission, like 2 and 3 weeks later, that there was police called or there was like an altercation or whatever. And we've only heard it as man on the street. So maybe like part of that is that the security company actually does report to you if they bring in the OPP and things like that. Not at the end of the month, but like when it happens, so that you, I mean, you would report to us at monthly, but they should probably be letting you know if there's some massive altercations going on out there, just,
On a Monday or Tuesday. when-
yeah, like after it happens.
You should know.
An incident report, let's say, yeah, an incident report should probably be filed.
And we're okay waiting till the end of the month unless it's an
Yeah.
extreme emergency. Just so we know what's going on.
Yeah, there should be an incident report coming in when something massive goes on.
Well, especially when they call the OPP.
The only thing with that, we might have to look at how the contract, the tender was written to see if there was reporting put in it. If there's not, we can discuss it with the contractor and then for the next tender, we can put it down.
Yeah, all he has
Yeah.
to make a phone call to Amber though Monday, so. And it helps him too, because then we can step in if there's a major issue. Okay, so. I didn't realize there was 4 things we put aside. Do you have anything else that would? Okay, so you,
Keep moving everything, you move it.
and you can second it. We'll take Sherry out of it. We actually should have been using the deputy mayor, like up there. Anyways, all in favor? That's passed. So you have one last thing before I go to almost finishing. And you have something, okay.
I have a conflict for next month. I will be in Kamloops on the 11th. I might be able to attend the meeting for approximately an hour or so because of 3-hour time difference. But I have a train schedule that goes out of Kamloops at 8 o'clock in Kamloops. So that would only give me about an hour next 11th in September.
It's gonna be a long meeting.
Yeah, I know it is.
I don't know, should we change it or like, I don't know, that always
It's a
causes.
big meeting.
But it's budget, right? So it almost feels like if we can, but
I'd rather leave it myself, that way we're, but.
As I said, I can attend for about the first hour.
Wow. Probably better for them, so
And I'm not back to Toronto, to Lagoon City until the 20th September.
Oh, it's-
like
The
what
week
it,
before the 5th,
So you're saying September 12th, right?
12th, I'm sorry, yes.
You know what? I know you guys have booked off like the Thursday all the time, so I don't want to lose like staff, right? Like, right? So you're saying we'd almost have to go earlier.
No, the day before, I'm actually on the train the day before.
Yeah, I'm gone that full weekend. I'm going to be alone. But you guys have heard. The kids. All right,
Just a suggestion, maybe if we had the agenda created so that we could do the budget and the portion where Commissioner Mason was able to attend and we could get through that portion before he has to leave.
yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe for that hour, we'll let Commissioner Mason like speak with all his issues and everything. Maybe we don't get there. Yeah, all right, let's keep it to Thursday.
Yeah,
I was just going to add to that point that I have the Waterside Wisdom presentations, like those emails have gone out and provided them with their dates. And also the treasurer has the 12th set aside for us as well. So if we're going to change it, we have to have those things in consideration too.
Do you think though, on the day of the budget that we're doing, that we should have somebody here? Because it's gonna be a long day, right?
It's
Right,
it's
I mean,
the commission.
saying we don't.
I don't know, our last budget didn't take, I
Well,
mean,
you know
we're
what?
at the end
They're
of
so
the big,
efficient-
like,
they're so
yeah,
efficient with
like
it, yeah.
everything's running so smoothly that I don't think budget is what
Yeah,
it
maybe
once
you're right.
was.
It's not like what it used to be, right? Okay. All right, we'll leave it then.
I think
Okay, then.
last year we were done by noon.
Yeah, we were
half a
pretty-
day, yeah.
Yeah, and this year we don't have any, like, we're past all these massive equipment purchases and like this will be more, like we said, wish lists more or less
It'll be
and
more
based on
fun,
which the
actually.
community want. Yeah, more fun, exactly.
Okay. All right then. Does anybody else have anything else? Because I'm going to number 10 now, closed session, which I don't believe we're going into a closed session.
I just have my one announcement.
Oh, sorry, you had the announcement. All right. Okay, do your announcement then.
Thank you. So this I experienced personally. I went to Anchor and this is something that I'm going to hope that we can get into the highlights. So that's why I'm bringing it this way. And then in the future, it would come under our announcements. But I went to Anchor at in the area of the North Beach and had some folks come out and tell me that I wasn't allowed to anchor my boat there. And so I'm making this announcement just because I just want to be clear that the beach itself is what's private, but the lake is not. And I don't mean any disrespect toward those residents. I just don't know if maybe there's a misunderstanding that somehow the areas out in front of the beaches are inaccessible. And so I want to make sure that the information is out there that it's only the sandy beach area, the beach proper, which is private, and any boats can come and anchor anywhere in the beach areas that they'd like. So I think that's an important thing to know. That's all.
Were you in the former like swimming zone that used to be sort of cordoned off?
No, we came around just actually around the channel and sort of further into the lake than closer to the beach, if you will. We were sort of at the mouth of the channel, parallel to, but on the beach side, obvious. And when we went to Anchor, yeah, somebody let us know that we weren't permitted there because it's a private space. So, and I don't want to, and it may be that people don't know, they may just not understand. So I just thought it was important to make an announcement, just to make sure that gets into the highlights, that actually it's only the beach itself, which is a private space.
I don't know, what about the 100 boats that are there? Why you? Yeah. But anyways, okay.
I don't know. Just maybe my timing. I don't know.
Are we done now? Okay, let's go to, there's no closed session, so we're adjourning our meeting at 12:06. Oh,
Sorry. Cal, there is no closed session, but there are closed session minutes. We can go into closed session if you'd wish to discuss those minutes. But if there's no discussion, then we can just adopt them as presented.
Oh, okay. So somebody put it on the floor for me then? I didn't see that actually. Closed session. Oh, okay, there it is. Commissioner Mason, second by Commissioner Shoesmith. I guess I was trying to get through quick. If you want to discuss it, we have to go into closed session. Anybody want to discuss the closed session? No? All in favor? That's passed. Thank you, Amber. Oh.
Just one more thing before we close. Really appreciate all the accolades on the condition of the canals, and I will definitely pass that along to all the staff. But I feel compelled to make sure that everybody understands it's a collaborative effort. It's the clean flow system, it's the weed spraying, it's the staff. It's a collaborative effort of everybody that the condition of the canals are the way that they are right now. I will pass the accolades on to the staff that are currently cutting the weeds, and they do the big majority of the removal of the weeds, but everything in the condition of the canals is a collaborative effort of all the parties involved. So I just wanted to make that note. So.
Thank you guys. All right. Now I'm going to say this is one and last time. Does anybody have anything else? Nope. Okay, so we're adjourning at 12:08. Thanks, guys. Oh.
I'm so sorry.
You know what? The mover's going to be their deputy mayor. He's up top there because he's saving his battery. Second by Commissioner Shoesmith. All in favor for adjournment. There we go. 12:08 still. Wow, I'm trying to rush this.